And we're live here on the air, a little bit late, yes. Sheik, but we're here. So we're going to we're going to see who shows up, and we're going to start this as that song say, gonna start this thing off right. So I do. All right, okay, they're coming in the room. The old song say, "Come on in the room." email y'all some pretzels. Yeah, we are eating. We have some pretzels, and we have some fresh juice that I squeezed. I posted that on my page today, but I forgot to say, because this consists. What I did is mix two things, because this is my berry juice, which has strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and cherries. So it's berry. But then it's mixed with my tea that I sun brewed, which is made out of hibiscus and loquat. So like we good. So we're here. Let's toast to the night. We see they're coming in the room. Cheers to you all. We see you coming in. We see you coming in. Peace. You here with Father Hannibal? Okay. Peace. We're glad that we apologize for the lateness of the hour, but it's Friday night, and so you can hang out with us. You can hang out with us. We wanted to make sure. Can I take a sip, y'all? Let me. It's good. Oh my gosh. It's good. This is so good. Yeah, this is so good. Look, y'all. We got because we got some more here. That's what we're gonna drink. But that's not what we're not on here so that you can see us. It's hot. It's very humid. Yes. We do have a very expensive thingamajig over there running some air for us, and you feeling a little bit, right? Yeah, fan with no blades. Yeah, it's a Dyson. They know how to be innovative. But we wanted to let me see, what is this? Remind me tomorrow. We wanted to come to you tonight because we did not schedule a regular House of Reawakening Minds presentation because, of course, yesterday a lot of people, regardless of what we say about the significance or lack thereof of the 4th of, I call it July, the 4th of July. We know that a lot of people use that as a time to vacation or travel to see their families, during the summer and so forth. And so we assumed and figured that we would probably be, at a very low in terms of people actually coming out. Yeah. But we've been talking about some things. Yes. And so we decided that Grand Sheik and I would just do it office hours. That I would be here in my little office here. And we'll talk about whatever, and I'll try, is way over there, to field some of your comments and questions if I can catch them on here. But we want to just basically just kind of, I don't know. Righty. Okay. One of the things that Grand Sheik you wanted to talk about, because you said that lately you have been getting a lot of calls and questions with regard to the democracy versus the republic. Yes. And so I want you to expound on that for our listeners and our viewers. And hey, if you're on here, the treaty book just nearby. I don't think I had a treaty book right here. I'm so sorry. I think it's in my bedroom. I think I'm gonna have to go find it in my bag or something. I'm sorry, y'all. The roots letters in there too, and both of those are subjects. Okay, well, you know what? Is it next to you? Is it? I don't know. I got a whole bunch of your books right there in that thing. But if I recall correctly, Let me take a minute. The treaty book was not in there because it was out somewhere, and you won't find it. Y'all gonna have to see. You really getting the yeah. Please laugh, because he's asking me for something I don't know where it is. And I don't think I could. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna you talk to the people right now. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna get out of camera, but you're gonna have to talk to them because they're on there. You see that? Go ahead, talk. Now in the treaty book,
one of the issues that we were talking about is citizenship, because that's coming up on a regular basis. And we've been getting correspondences from, a lot of the Asiatics around the country, including some Mexican brothers and sisters and some Puerto Rican brothers and sisters, because of the border policies that are going on right now with the Ku Klux Klan Party, better known as the Democratic Party, and with Donald Trump, who is a Knights Templar, who's connected to, but not really a part, in a sense, of the Republican Party. And so he's looked at by both of them sort of like as an outsider who got in contrary to their plans and their manipulations. And in many ways, he's doing or enforcing some policies that represent the National Republic, even though at the same time, a lot of the things that are said by all those European persons on both sides of those both compromised parties are contradictory to constitutional principles. However, Trump is more constitutional than most of the rest of them wrapped up in the same package. And that's not a defense of Donald Trump, it's just telling the truth about what it is. However, also recognizing that a lot of our people don't know the real history and the real politics. Some of them are unaware of the actuality of the political platforms, and therefore are often misguided by what is called the mainstream media narrative. And so most of the times when the different Europeans jump on Donald Trump, the people who don't know the politics jump on it with him, not really paying attention to the details of what's going on. However, back to point. Everybody must keep in mind that when they're talking about the alleged border crisis, that must be qualified. From a national perspective, dealing with the Naturalization Act, distinguished from nationalization, the Naturalization Act of 1790, which Ulysses S. Grant modified in 1870. And this is about the time when the European aliens and their descendants at North America started calling themselves politically white people, quote unquote, as the breakup from the Whigmore Party. And of course, there's a confusion with that with many of our people, because they think that white is a European identity, when actually white is a legal status having nothing to do with skin complexion whatsoever. So those things have to be cleared up. And the other issue is due to the fact that the Europeans, since those early periods, have been falsely claiming to be Americans, and that much that has to do with a lot of the corruption that is rooted in what they call their Monroe Doctrine. However, the misinformation that has been promoted in general with all the educational institutions at North America in all the corporate states operations under the John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates mind control systems set up in 1902, most of the people you will discover that actually don't know, unfortunately, that the Europeans and their descendants who have been occupying America are not Americans. And they keep distorting their private foreign corporation set up in Vienna, which is the United States Service Corporation. And they styled it United States of America, which is actually a human trafficking trading corporation having nothing to do with pedigree, bloodline, nationality, etc., but has to do with the operations of the barristers of the Circle Church and the Chancery, regulated from Fleet Street, England, under the secret Treaty of Verona. And so unfortunately, when we're going to a lot of these subject matters with our people, in different venues. Many of them have been influenced by the miseducation, and therefore assume that the hybrid Albion stock, Germanic stock of Europe are Americans. They are not Americans. And one of the biggest mistakes and criminal informational setups that has taken place in the modern world is the criminal Europeans going around the world waging war against all the Asiatic nations and doing it in the name of America when they themselves are indeed not Americans. And so very often the criminal acts committed by the Jesuit order and the popes of Rome and some members of the Templars and many of your P2 Masonic orders, etc., all coming under the auspices of the Spanish Inquisition, is assumed to be Americans, and people will say Americans did this and Americans did that. And one of the things that has to be corrected, particularly with our people, is to cease and desist calling the Europeans Americans and stop allowing them to do things in our name around the world and then transferring or projecting their evils upon America and American people. And again, back to the issue of the alleged border crisis. On one hand, you may be considered that. On another hand, it is not. Because the first thing you want to look at is that the people who are arguing aren't Americans. That's in the first place. That's the Europeans. Whether you're dealing with Donald Trump and his crew, or whether you're dealing with the Ku Klux Klan party of Nancy Pelosi and her crew, and the rest of those Europeans who are still foreigners. I don't care how many generations they've been here, they're aliens. And unfortunately, they've gotten habitually rooted in doing evil things to people around the planet. That's aside from the evils that they've done to our people on a continuous basis with their genocide unum sanctum policies. But the greater evil is that they continue to call themselves Americans, and we got to clear that up. And the other thing that we want to make very clear, any of the peoples at North America, Central America, South America of the Aboriginal stock are Americans. And so when they come across the borders, whether they're coming from Mexico, Honduras, Belize, Patagonia, that they renamed Argentina, Brazil, etc., they're all our families. They're Americans. It is the Europeans who are complaining who are not Americans. However, from a national point of view, protecting the borders, that Donald Trump is doing in some manners, that has more to do with their economic collapse than it has to do with any reality, because in fact, they don't have any authority to do any of that crap, but they're doing it. But they're de facto. That must be clear. So it's sort of like a catch-22 situation from a national perspective of actually protecting what would be called the jurisdictional borders. That's arguable, more in the favor of Donald Trump than the others. But in fact, none of them have a legitimate argument, because the real deal of it is that the fence that they put up there, that wall that they put up there to keep Mexicans out who are Americans, and understand that Nevada, Texas, New Mexico is part of Mexico. That's number one. And so all of our families from Mexico that are in North America and in Khalifa's land, California, are just simply home. So let's get that clear.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I was speaking with Lord Anton,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to really go into his something he's probably going to share at some point, but he was able to go, I guess, to the National Archives and get a full copy of what was that, the treaty, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Yeah. And he says, well, we've generally just seen two pages. It's like a 14-page document. But he said that what's referred to all throughout the treaty with England or whoever is actually Mexico or Mexico, as opposed to saying America. But Mexico, the treaty was
because Mexico is a Mexican, just like the
Mexican. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So here we got a treaty that's still supposed to be in effect with Mexico to whatever, to do commerce here.
And this is what must be very clear. And this has to be clear with everybody.
Right.
When we're making reference to the Europeans and their treaty obligations, we've got to stop saying we, because we have nothing to do with them other than in treaty. That connecting
would the we
us
be,
with them.
Would the we be Mexico being us?
Yes, you can say yes.
Yes, that's what I mean.
North, Central, South America, the islands, it's all us. Okay. When you say Mexico, you're saying Olmec, older Mexican, Olmec. You still yes. Let's get that very clear, because one of the things that has to be cleared up with many of our people here, particularly with the North, and many of the people, even on the islands and in the South, they've been contaminated with the reconstructed history, and many of them on both sides keep looking at each other as alien on their own land. That's because Europeans have been saying that. We got to clear that mess up. And so the language must be changed with our people. They need to start referring to the Europeans with all due respect as who they are, Europeans, and stop calling them Americans. Every time you call them Americans, you give up your birthright. That must be understood. And that's not against them in any manner. That's just telling the truth. However, it's damaging to us. It's damaging to the people on the islands. It's damaging to Central America. It's damaging to South America and all of the American states of the OAS, Organization of American States, to continue to allow these Europeans that are operating from North America under the Jesuit order to get away with calling themselves Americans and then going to and fro the earth, devouring nations in the name of America, which is really their private corporation having nothing to do with the organic land. Make that very clear. Now, the other arguments are plausible that branch from that. But let's get the first argument down. And that first argument is that Trump, his family, and all the rest of them Europeans are not Americans. Stop calling them what they are not. And stop calling ourselves what we are not. Which means all those brand systems that these European, Dutch, Germans made up in order to distract our people and to disconnect them from the land. Just want to remind you of that. That's another reason why the Roots letter is important for a lot of our people to be aware of.
Unfortunately, y'all, I cannot find my treaty book. As you see, I got lots and lots and lots and lots of your books right here, but not that one. I had it out. It's out somewhere. It's not in. I looked at a couple.
Let me see lesson book 14. See if we got.
Okay,
that's one of the green books.
All right, that one.
Yeah, let me see that one. And also, let me take out the clan book. I'm gonna see if it may be in. It may or may not.
Who are Moorish Americans? I got King Alfred, the Moors rise from civil death. Blah 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 blah. Here's a couple things I grabbed out there. Here's the Iroquois.
Iroquois Confederation.
The Iroquois.
That's really, they say Iroquois is Iroquois.
Iroquois. See, we learned something.
Confederation.
Bringing the people back into the constitutional fold government.
Yes.
Like that. So, yeah. But couldn't find my treaty book. Is here somewhere.
Excuse me.
So
pardon me.
We want to thank you all for
your patience.
Patience. I mean, we're being a little. We had planned to start this at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
And we had planned. I had planned to make you some Morocco.
Moroccan tacos. Serious.
But
y'all got to find out about that. That's like serious.
But anyway, things don't always go as planned, But we are, at least you're not without a class on today. You're not without class, such as it is. We're going to talk about some things, and if I can read what you're saying, which I need to put my glasses on. Melanated born here. I will. If there are any questions, Oh, somebody. Okay, somebody said they spoke with Lord Anton. Yeah, he's full of knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. Watching from Puerto Rico. Wow, I'm excited. I am going to. I'm probably not going to say this right, but I am going to be going to Bayamon, Puerto Rico. Brother Hector on Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to Bayamon. Yes, I'm going to be there for 6 days, and I'm going to be up there learning how to forage for plants that can be turned into medicinal tinctures and
yes, and herbs
and stuff. Yeah, that's where I'm going. So I'm going to be in Puerto Rico. How do I say it right? Borigan. I'm coming to Borigan next week. I also plan to come back 25 pounds lighter, heavier. We have a vegan chef there. Where I'm going anyway. Grand Sheik is looking for something that he wants to share.
But back to point. And this is for every and as a matter of fact, in the next newspaper of the Masonic Gate, I'm going to write an open letter article on that fraud of the Europeans claiming to be Americans, and we're going to send it out to all of their fake governors of all of the corporate states who've been exercising authority that don't belong to them too, because all of them are de facto, and that's not personal, that's a fact. And for those who have any questions concerning that without us getting into details, look up the Act of Congress 1871, the Organic Act of Congress 1871, and you'll understand a lot of things that we're saying that maybe some of the people will misjudge or misunderstand. And many of the criminal Europeans who are operating in the Bars Association in violation of the Constitution, holding office at North America, criminals that they are and traitors that they are, keep misrepresenting the people of the land here, the true Americans, as being paper terrorists and as being anti-government, when the fact of the matter is we're anti-European colonial operations, we're anti-unum sanctum, we're anti-dum diversus, we're anti-Romanus Pontifex, we're anti-doctrine of discovery, we're anti-genocide, and we're anti-Europeans claiming to be Americans when they're not.
And we're anti-Spanish Inquisition.
Yes, we're anti-Spanish Inquisition, because one of the things that they did in order to distort the history is start calling us Spanish and start calling us Indians and Negros. All of these things are fake, and that's a fact. And this other thing that you all need to get clear in your mind, 90% of the nation states that you hear them talking about in history, in the politics, 100 years ago, 125 years ago, 90% of them didn't exist. So let's get off of that. So most of the names of the islands and many of the different political jurisdictions in Central and South America, etc., are political jurisdictions. They have nothing to do with pedigree or bloodline or the people of the land. Let's get that out of the way immediately.
Well, you know what I did? I heard I was looking at a YouTube video, and I'm not sure whose it was, but the person was saying that they were speaking to someone from where we would call Africa. And he was saying, if you speak to my grandma about her, who she is or where she is, the place that you call it, she doesn't know it as that.
At all.
That you said they've actually literally put names and labels on places that if you went actually there, the people they have no clue.
Don't exist.
That's not who they are as far as we've been.
They don't.
So for
this is one of what they call its projection. One of the tricks that the European colonists, German, Dutch masters have done, and people need to comprehend this, is that they changed the names and attributes, the connected attributes of peoples and their lands, and then under unum sanctum, claim the peoples and their lands. This is the basis of their arrogance and their abuses of the people. And the people need to start rebutting these false names that the Europeans have created and put on us, because most of the people don't know it's designed to steal the birthright. As an example, when they came amongst the Carib Moors in Atlantis, they're called Caribs, Arawak, Taino, and they like just literally slaughtered most of the people in the Atlantis Islands, the residual of the Atlantis Islands, and the culture of the Asiatic African cultures. The ancient principles of all Asiatic culture is matriarchy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that as men that we didn't project or go out and do things. Everything was brought from the circle of mothers, meaning the major decisions that's done in nation states, period, was brought to the circles of mothers. And they usually go like by the Great Lakes, you know, those atomic lakes, mm-hmm. and they meditate always by the waters, etc. And when they make a decision, they bring them to us. And we would be what you call chiefs, shakuns, etc. And all of when you deal with Sheik, Shakun, chief, they're all relative. Let's get that vizier, they're all relative. Mm-hmm. And then the mothers amongst the chosen sons, they would crown them according to rank. This is when this, and for those of you who don't know your history, then you can go into the history of the crown of the son. This is where your fez is, and that's when you get into your colors, the different colors. That's a whole nother lesson, but for those who don't know what that's all about, that's what that's all about. And the crown was given by the mothers to the sons, etc. So let's get that out the way real quick. Okay. Now, after they murdered a lot of the Taino and Arawak among the Carib Moors, they were sending back to, and keep in mind, because of the matriarchal system, the family wealth, like you'll see, they were wear within their turbans, mm-hmm. the jewels within their turbans, mm-hmm. Gold and stuff like that, and around their wrists and around their necks. The deal of it is, it was molded on their necks and molded on their arms, meaning that they washed and they didn't take them off. Now, so when Europeans, who are really Constantinians, who've been going around the world in the name of Christianity, murdering people and robbing them of all their wealth and resources, murdered so many of the people, and they sent back to the Queen of England and Isabella and their crew, mm-hmm. of the Jesuit order, of the priesthood, of pedivores and pedophiles, because that's what they are. That's what they are. I'm not. And told them, damn, this is a rich port. Mm-hmm. And this is how Puerto Rican became known as Puerto Rico. So them brothers and sisters are not Puerto Ricans. That is BS. They're Moros too. And the same thing with Pope Philip, when they on the islands, even in the Pacific, the Moros on the islands, they renamed after they murdered many of them after Pope Philip. And that's where you get the Philippines. Mm-hmm. The Philippine Islands, they're not Filipinos. They're Moors. You know, and that same principle applies over and over again across the world. And our people really need to get clear that we are brothers and sisters here, and the suffering of the planet Earth in the whole contemporary world is rooted in the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors. That's the political and reality fact. And when they were taking over the trade routes of Madagascar and Sinde, that they falsely call India today, that is not India, that's Sinde. And Sinde is corruptedly called India. It ain't no such thing as India, and ain't no damn Indians on this planet. And the real deal is when they was taking over Madagascar and parts of South Asia that they call Africa now, etc., trying to take over the spice routes and the trade routes, and particularly when Pedro the Moor navigated the Nino, and you can go into European shipping records, and it was a Moor who navigated the Nino, and they didn't take them to the mainland, they took them to the last of the Atlantis islands. And this is where all the slaughtering took place with these Europeans, etc. And so that's when they called us Indians of the West, or that's how the term West Indies has its roots. It's no such thing as West Indians, and we're not Indians. And the brothers on the islands are not West Indians, they're Moors. They're Carib Moors, Arawak, and Taino Moors. They all are Moors. Get that very clear. And all these Asiatics of North America, when these foreign alien Europeans insult our brothers and sisters that come from the islands and tell them they need green cards, you need to reverse that damn argument. It's them foreign Europeans that need a green card. They're arguing about other people's identity to steal your identity. So keep that in mind. Then when you agree to be the brand names that they gave you, then they have claim of jurisdiction. And that's what they've been doing. So let's get that clear. So you want to render unto Caesar all them Caesar names back to them and reclaim the names of your ancient mother fathers and your bloodlines and go back to that state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers. And that don't mean hate anyone. No, it does not. It means stop rejecting the lies that have been destroying civilization and starting with destroying your families and allowing these foreign Europeans to continue to call themselves Americans. And you think it's innocent. It is not innocent. It is to steal your estates. And that's what they've been doing. So let's get over that right off the bat.
Ashur L says, doesn't the term America come from Americo? He said Bez. I've heard
yes, Americos, that's what they teach you. So let me give you a little quick history on that. Mark this down and do some research. Americos Vespucci was one of the Europeans who were studying the old maps of the Moors. And as a matter of fact, he sailed from the city called Cadiz, a Moorish city, and they were checking out the maps and the grid lines that was laid out by the Moors. That's a fact. Now, when you want to go to the history, it comes from ancient Moabite, ancient Mu, Amaru, etc. So when you get into Peru, right on up, you're going to get those Mu, Amaru, because it's ancient. That has nothing to do with America's Vespucci. That's bullshitsky dwarf.
Okay, all right. So I mean, but a lot of things that people, you know, what we know about his story comes from his story.
Reconstructed history.
Reconstructed history. So now that we have the knowledge that history, by and large, is a lot of fakery, and like you said, reconstruction.
And what they've been doing.
Social engineering.
Yeah, yes, even in fact, you know, you want to get real about it. The Germanic tribes of the Albion Paleolithic stock aren't even Europeans. They're just simply Albion hybrids, because even your Aboriginal Europe under Queen Europa are the Moorish and the Picts, etc. So do some research into England and ancient Britain, and you'll see that's us too. So you can get off that crap also. So when these people keep pretending, this is why when you do any deep research, you ain't really got to go that deep into the European families. They even claiming the Moors as their forefathers. That's why you see all of their family crest of heraldry got Moors in it, and you don't see a pale face there. That's a fact.
Cedric Simpson Bay says, tell us about ancient Egypt, Grand Sheik.
Ancient Egypt is Hikupta. Egypt is a modern term. Now, all scholars, sheiks, masons, Templars, Knights of Columbus, Eastern Stars, people who got what you call connections to the secret societies that pretty much run the planet, because the masses are miseducated, deeply miseducated. They all know that Hikupta is what you call Egypt. Ain't no damn Egypt, it's Hikupta. But because of the reconstructed history, you know, getting the people where you find them type thing. So when you get Ptah, P-T-A-H, that's the last part of Hikupta. That's where you get Ptah from. That's Hikupta. Now let's get that out the way. Number two, when you're talking about ancient Egypt, don't just think on that side of the water. Think even in central, the lower part, the mid part of Louisiana coming up to Tennessee, and Kentucky is Lower Egypt. So get over it.
So the people that might be watching this that are Bible scholars and they at the end of the Bible, a lot of people have asked, you know, me being a former pastor, and people have inquired, where is America in the Bible? And you and I have talked about this a lot. Well, not a lot, but
when you talk about America, basically you're talking about the land of milk and honey, and you're talking about the fountain of youth,
which would be in the land of flowers, basically.
Yeah, on up, Florida, really up over to the Louisiana territory. So when you're talking about land of flowers, it wasn't the political jurisdiction that you see right now. The land of flowers, which is called Florida, flower land, that's what it is. Florida is land of flowers. And what you see now, Alabama, Arkansas, all that area, and parts of what you call Texas today, and up into Georgia, all of that was Florida.
Right, it wasn't.
All of that was Florida. People are trained by the political line jurisdictions that are presented in what you call your Mappamundi operations. So Mappamundi is the proper name of what you call, in short, maps. So is
that like cartography too?
Yes.
Okay.
And your real Mappamundi would show the old areas. So you have roughly around 4 to 5 territorial districts prior that is recognized simply by us prior to European colonization. Now, although the Albion tribes here and there have been here since from the beginning, because they're hybrids actually, you know, but when we have what you call the takeover, and they reconstruct everything. So people's concepts, when you say land of flowers, they keep thinking what they see on the map today. No, think all the way over to Texas, all the way up to Alabama, Arkansas, parts of Georgia, etc., is land of flowers, and part of the Carolinas. And most of them, there would be your Ill East. They would call Ill East Moors. Ill East. Okay. Ill East Moors. And then you have, and many of them were part of the Powhatani Confederation. Now, just like when you look at the Anansi that they call Iqua, or they'll say Iroquois. That's going to more to your north area. And these principles are bodies politics. You had different tribes that belonged to both of them. Some belonged to both, and some, you know, were more affiliated with your North Confederation of Anansi. And then Powhatani confederations, and that would deal with many of us who are Anayamwea, or what they call Cherokee, you know. And don't get this mixed up with many of your mixed hybrids that are shown in your school books. Because if you want to see old Amexem, you look at some of them brothers and sisters that you see every day, like as an example, like yourself, like me, Dave Calloway, Dane Calloway. You're looking at old Mech when you look at them, and they're almost direct. You know, our concepts are totally wrong. And get this out of your mind. We've called ourselves some of these things because Europeans have called them, and we've adopted them. But none of that crap is who we are. We're not Indians. We're not blacks. We're not monkeys. Negro de Avera Arebo means black chimpanzee monkey. They don't have nothing to do with the human family. However, it does have to do with Charles Darwin's fact of their theory on the hybriding of the Europeans. Well, yes, that's true. But that's not humanity at large. That's the European stock, or what you call the Albion stock, that the sun continues to seek to kill because they're really mutants. Unfortunately, that's just the truth. And you got to get it out of your head and stop allowing the mutant alien Europeans to disgrace America by claiming to be America and by going around the world doing things in the name of America, and then the world is blaming the Americans.
Let me say this as and it's not a disclaimer, but I want to say it because I know that we do have some regular followers of this Moorish science teaching that are Albions or European.
Yeah, but the truth is just the truth. It has nothing to do with it.
And I respect them, you know, for being, they're
dealing
not
with the truth.
Yeah, they're not fly by night. They don't come on here and argue. They listen, they learn, they contribute. You know, there's a couple and I know who they are, you know, that I know. I don't know everyone, but I know the ones that I know who they are. And I know that they've been very, very supportive. I don't feel like they're
the truth. See, this is the deal.
What did we
Excuse
do?
me. I hit that accidentally.
What did we do?
I just hit the accident. I hit my arm hit that. Now
wait a minute. What happened? Did I lose it? Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
So I lost it.
Now, see the deal of this.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I want to say that because when you say sometimes when we start talking about the hybrid, that's just fact.
It's just a fact.
It's just a fact. It doesn't change, you know, who a person has become. And by the time,
like
I guess
we always tell people, the knowledge is not to be used for hatred or for rejection. The knowledge is used to clean this mess up.
Which brings me to a question. Yeah, here's a question. So Asher L says, so Big Brother Taj, how do we go about setting the record straight, knowing the knowledge is only half the battle? How do we set the record straight? You
start, because see, the spirit of this thing is, because everything that manifests in the physical manifests in the spirit first.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the major reason why a lot of corruption lives is because we have been corrupt. It's not just Europeans who've been corrupt, who've taken advantage of us. It's we who've been corrupt by adopting these names and principles that delude to forced servitude and to peonage, connotatively referred as slavery, and then acting like we're innocent in this because we're being abused when we've been a part of this corruption. So the truth has been often treated as if it's the corruption. The truth has been treated like it's alien. The truth has been treated like it's dirt. And so much lie has taken root that when you tell the truth, they look at the truth as being an intrusion on the platform of this beautiful Christianized American system, when both of those things are lie. Because these Europeans are Constantinians hiding behind the name Christianity. 90% not Christians, or that's been commonly said. And politically, when they're going into the war records, whether at North America or England or in the world, they'll refer in their war records Christian nations and Muslim nations. But the real deal is the European nations are really Constantinians. Their creed is called the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, which is the official name of the Constantinian order that's been used to conquer the world under the name Christianity and Christendom. That's the fact. Now, deal of it is, in reference to the question, when we start acting right and stop casting negative spells out with false information that we've adopted from the Europeans, nature herself will come to your aid and start dismissing this BS that we all together, Europeans and Asiatics, have corrupted the planet with. Now that's the fact. You want to change the world? Start with you. Look in the mirror, start with you, change your language, stop calling the Europeans Americans, stop letting them call our brothers and sisters from the islands aliens and giving them green cards and getting away with it. Start enforcing that Constitution in order to enforce the treaties. And what happens is often our people, when they become more cognate of the real history, they'll bring up the data, you know, the research and the data, which is anybody that starts doing research is going to start finding this stuff. Even though the Europeans buried it, it is so much of the history that's rooted, whether you deal in Europe or in South Asia that they call Africa, or in North America or Central America or South America. You start digging up the history, and what you're going to find is Moorish history at the forefront of all of this stuff. And the suppression of it is going to also be at the forefront of this stuff. You start using the brand systems, all the corporations, operators will start supporting you with their 501c3 skull and bones agreements. As soon as you start talking about the true history of the Aboriginal people, of the Moabite Canaanite stock, then all of a sudden everybody's mad. You know why they're mad? because at that point, they can no longer control the narrative, including their paid off Negro, black, nigger leader guys who are 90% who are 32 and 33-degree Masons, pretending they don't know what Masonry is and pretending they don't know that these people are Moors while they wear their Moorish fez in their Moorish named lodges and getting kickbacks from these Europeans while running around talking about Jesus, God, and Allah, while at the same time raping their own daggone people and pretending the Europeans doing it to them. Now take that and take that to the semi-bank that's going to crash too.
Atik Bey says, wants to ask you what is to come here in the Maghreb over the next few months, years. I don't know if you put on your. All
right, this is what's happening. Number one, let's talk about the politics. Now, the Europeans are going through this dance, this dog and pony dance. Well, the missionary work of the Unum Sanctum operations of the Doctrine of Discovery was to complete the Spanish Inquisition, and that was to, quote unquote, hollow out, write this down, hollow out the wealth of the Moorish nation under the guise of being legitimate government. And they have pretty much, in some senses, done just about that. So this is what's happening. All of you who are looking forward to a job next year, chalk it. All of those who are investing in what you call real estate and stuff and thinking that, you got some security for the next few years coming in, you can chalk that too. All of you that have invested in all of your so-called retirement funds and stuff like that, you can take that FUND and just turn it into FUN, because it's going to be very funny when you discover it ain't stuff there. And we're not talking about doggy dung. So all of the things that you built in the name of your securities, dealing with these Romans, they will betray you in spades. They're not going to just betray you. They're going to betray you in spades. Now, what's happening with them, and I'll tell you exactly what's happening with Donald Trump. And take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Just observe. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And I don't care what they tell you to the contrary. Your nigger leader guys and your engine guys and the Europeans. I don't care whether it's Trump, whether the Ku Klux Klan party called Democratic Party. I'm going to tell you. And they can contradict it. And all you got to do is write down what I say, because next year you can talk to me at the same time if I didn't go on the other plane. You can talk to me next year and then say that I've already told you so, because I've been telling these people this for years. So this is what's going to happen. 40 years out, all these people that have invested in all this real estate, your stuff is going to crash. Number two, the reason they want to put this stuff in what you call digital currency, because currency is not money, so they can rob you better and quicker, because they do still intend to steal your estates. They're going to be liquidating people's estates even if they think they paid off their mortgages, because they don't know what a mortgage is. A mortgage means dead pledge. Contract is dead, and your body and your labor and your future inheritances were the pledge as wards of the states under the Christian black codes. That's a fact, not an opinion. That's a fact. So you can look at a lot of these people who think they secure. That's going to be 1 foot on the curb, thinking they were secure, because they did not do anything to secure their estate, and they didn't step up to the plate when they should have, and think that this European ain't going to betray them. However, he would have moved faster, except that the nations of the world are no longer buying the Constantinian treasury bonds. They call them T-bonds, that they set up after they closed the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, commonly known as the Freedmen's Bureau. And I noticed, do you ever notice all those so-called Christianized Negroites that made deals with this European? They never got the 40 acres and the mules. They didn't get it then, and they ain't getting it damn now.
ADOS and reparations.
Yeah. And for those who want to have discussions on reparations, if you're not talking decolonization, don't talk reparations, because you can't do one without the other. If somebody, let's keep this simple in layman's terms. If somebody stole your pocketbook with a whole bunch of stuff in it, If they didn't give you that pocketbook back with all the stuff in it, that ain't no reparations. So if they give you a bunch of coupons to go shop at Macy's, don't think that they made you on damn reparations. And don't think that they gave you some daggone Federal Reserve notes, which is private commercial paper, that they're repairing a damn thing.
Reparations don't make us whole.
It can't. And anything they give you is what they stole from you in the first damn place. Let's get that out the way. Now, and it doesn't mean that these things shouldn't be looked at or discussed. They need to be clarified, but however, being realistic.
And don't you think people today are they just misinformed because they think a check, they're already getting, it's like welfare.
They don't even know the difference.
It's like another form of welfare that they're proposing. Mm-hmm. So we're going to give you this little check, because a lot of people, I read something where a lot of the people, for instance, when the Japanese were interred or and so forth, and some of the other, the so-called Jewish Holocaust,
and they would be Nipponese.
Rich folks, Jews were rich, getting payments, still getting payments.
And hold on, and this is the other corruption. Them Europeans call themselves Jews, ain't Jews.
Right.
They're Khazarians. That's number one. And this whole Jew game is made up. Let's get that out the way quickly. And when you're talking Jew, you're talking Yahudi, or the ancient ones of Asiatic stock, having nothing to do with the hybrid stocks. So let's get that out of the way. And that doesn't knock any of them from a personal perspective. That's just the real truth. And so you need to stop that BS too, because they've been using that game for like a century of victimization and then robbing people. Now that's just the truth.
This is interesting. I was listening to Dane Calloway today, and he was talking about at the end of a really good documentary that he did. It was like 1 hour and 39 minutes that he was going to talk about the number 13, and his wife texted him and told him, stop, don't talk anymore, because apparently he's going to do a documentary with regard to 13. But there's a question here about how they got from 13 to 52 states, Grand Sheik, because he was talking about the significance, though, 13, 13 so-called colonies, 13 families, 13 banks.
Yes, that's what
there's
that's
a lot
all
of
about.
13s.
So the first, let's get past the first thing. 9 and 13 is the number of women.
Okay.
Number 2, the conquest of the Moorish nation, or the Asiatic nation on the planet, has at its root what is called the suppression and conquest of the ancient Moabites, or what they refer to as the Asiatic African woman. This is the reason why in the Constantinian order of the priesthood, you have no women, because the issue is to overthrow all matriarchies. Are we clear? Because this is necessary for Constantinian order rule, or what they would call Christian rulership. Because keep in mind, whenever you think in Christian, think Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, which is the official secret name. It's not exactly secret, but the reverends will never say it because they don't want these people to know that their 501c3 is not an agreement with Jesus for teaching the word and being tax exempt. That's their agreement with the popes of Rome. That's their kickback. So they get a chance to rob the widow's pennies, who give it thinking Jesus got a bank account. This is for real. And the other kickback comes from the corporations who they really work for. Now that's the truth. Their job is to keep these people passive in a marching mentality, keep hope alive mentality, while they get raped. And in the background, this is why they all got these $3,000, sometimes it's a little more than that, suits and everything, $60 million jet planes to ride all over the place, to spend Jesus' half with. And yeah, it's really the truth. And these people keep on funding them, thinking that they're honorable to the divine, etc. And the other deal, and when they get away with this crap that they keep talking about Bible scholars, all you need to do, and y'all try this on family members, Reverend Pigfoot down the street, and all the rest of them, when they start talking about Bible studies. With all due respect, all you need to ask them is, oh, we're going to do some Bible study and stuff? Yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to get into the word of the Lord and shit. Now, they're going to do all this. All you need to ask them, say, well, give me the foundation of Septuaginta and the Book of the Dead so we can really get grounded. And if they wrinkle their eyebrow one time and start talking about that Bible and don't talk about the Book of the Dead, the Vedas, and Septuaginta, they're already disqualified because that's your foundation. And the fact of the matter is, 90% of the time when they go into Bible study, they're setting you up for the mind control. They set up a false premise and they build on it. Not that the book should be discarded, because it is a cosmology book. However, it's coded. So it's not so much that it's wrong, it's just that the priesthood presented from an anthropomorphic perspective only, without telling the people the cosmological background, and that is literally neutered and deliberately anthropomorphized in order to distort, to keep rulership over the public. This is why the average public, like they won't tell you about the Bible study. You ask them about the Book of Mary, 1 and 2. Ask them about the Book of the Infants, 1 and 2, Enoch, etc. And all of a sudden their eyebrows get twisted. You know why it gets all twisted? Because as soon as you start getting some of the stuff that they took out of the book, all of their BS mind control system starts to collapse. And you'd be surprised how many of these people keep talking about love of the Lord, of Jesus, of God, and the Spirit of the Lord. You'll literally see horns come out of their heads because they'll get mean, evil, want you to burn in hell. I'm just some of the meanest people you want to know on this planet is people that keep on claiming belief systems until you start really getting some research into whatever they claim and ask them some solid questions on foundational information and watch how evil and mad they get immediately, because their argument falls apart and they can't control you no more. And immediately you stop being numb and spookified, and you notice that their hand is in your damn pocket. And of course you're gonna pull it out. Now they're mad at you. And then start accusing you of robbing God and everything. Because you stopped them from robbing you. In the name of their Lord. You notice that they never give you the specifics. They'll say, and you know, this is for God. And you know, God needs sandwiches too. And what you want to do is contribute to God's house. You know, God owns all this stuff. How come all his houses is always falling apart and stuff?
Building fund.
He got more leaking roofs.
Look,
bus fund, building fund, all this stuff. They always got to build. And the leaks, you ain't never seen so many leaking roofs that they got to fix every 2 years. Please stop. Get over it.
I don't know exactly what this is, but Asher L asks, can you touch on Minnesota Rule 220?
Name it. Bring it up. Read it out.
So Asher L, if you heard this, if you're still on there, if you want to say.
Yeah, so that everybody be clear exactly what you're talking about. And remember, whenever you're making reference to any what you call jurisdictional claims of legislation with enumeration, always explain what it is.
Okay.
And this is so that the people know exactly what you're talking about, particularly if you're dealing with a specific issue on it.
Okay. While I'll have to flip through and see if he expounded. Cedric Simpson Bay asks, will there be a movement here similar, again, he may have to ACE Magashul in the Republic of South Africa? I'm not sure what that is, and you may know.
Name it. You got it. In other words, always remember, when you ask a question, present the root of the foundation of the question so that the listeners can share in the information. In other words, if I say to you as an example, if I say, can you tell me about House Joint Resolution 192? You know, well, that has to do with a speech that was made by Travacon in relationship to earlier speeches made by Louis McFadden in relationship to a suit case that was brought against the Jesuit order and the operatives of the de facto members of the board of directors oligarchy faking as Congress. And you know that the average person doesn't know that. So always bring up the fact that the enumerated references are made to, so that when we address that the listeners have a clear understanding of what's being put on them in the name of government, because most of the people don't know that these people are not their government. They actually think that these people are their government. They don't even know that they're a private oligarchy run from Fleet Street, England, including the entire judicial system operating at North America is run by the Circle Church of the Chancery from Westminster and from Fleet Street, England, and that's a fact, and controlled by the foot soldiers in ties called the barristers or turners, who've been turning over the estate in contradiction and in contradistinction to the Constitution and in violation of the nobility clause of that Constitution, and are running around calling themselves attorneys, esquires, and lawyers. And they are really enemies of the state. That's a fact. Do some research, y'all.
Here's a comment from Kimberly Dyke Harsley. Brother Taj, I recall talking to you when you were on your show on Thursdays. She's at question on High Frequency Radio Network. You talked about, it says U.S. usufruct. Usufruct, is that?
Usufruct.
Usufruct, and when Pope issued an order in December 2014 about ending human trafficking, slave labor, etc.
Yeah, and in Doctrine of Discovery, too.
You were speaking way ahead of a lot of our understanding back then, but it has been, and it is being revealed. So she was saying a lot of stuff that you were saying 5 years ago, we're now.
Yeah, and because I was telling them that really for the last 20 years, truthfully.
Well, that's what we were talking about in the car, that you've been, I asked you how long you had been in the, it was good. It's a good segue for that. I asked you how long you had been teaching and studying and teaching more science, and you said over 40 years. It started.
Really.
Tell us how it started.
Yes, really from about
the 70s. You said?
78, 79. First inferences that I got.
Go back to 65.
That was the first inferences I got when actually when I got what you call an undesirable, beautiful discharge from the U.S. corporate army, because I kept kicking ass every week. Anyway,
can we ever talk about that?
Oh yeah, please.
No, because I think your life is I'm digressing a little bit. We're gonna have fun tonight, y'all. I'm gonna see if I can reveal some stuff that I've been holding on to. But can I talk about when you were in the army? Just some of it. Can we talk a little bit about what happened to you?
Oh yeah. Because
I don't know how many people know this, and I kept thinking that if I wrote a book about your life, I would call it 99.
Please.
No, but you know why? Why? No, see, he's tired, Joe. Look at his eyes. But we're gonna get. But I would call it 99, and it's a wonderful story. Not a story, but a wonderful, not wonderful. It was amazing thing that happened to you, because everybody sees you. They know you're the Grand Sheik, and they know you have all this knowledge and information. But you're also very, very metaphysical and ethereal. You just don't. When you and I talk about stuff that I don't hear you talking about when you do this, because people want to hear about nationality, birth rate. Need to wake up. But there are there are other aspects to who you are. And the one that has fascinated me the most was what happened to you when you were in the military and you were on your way to Germany.
Yes.
You're okay.
Oh,
in 1966. So Grand Sheik recounts to me something that happened to him when he was in the.
It was late 65.
Okay, late 65 when he was in
early 66
in the military, and you had just gone through basic. Or maybe
no, I went through training.
You're going through, but you're being deployed.
Yeah.
So you're being deployed.
And my MO, what you call the MO.
I was in there too. Your MOS. Yeah. Military occupational specialty. I had one of them. 98C Charlie. Yeah. Okay, now I'm getting all off. But anyway, so you had your MOS. So you're on your way to Germany, and you were in the airport.
Yeah, what happened? In the airport. Was in the airport.
This is interesting, y'all. That's why I'm digressing. Y'all don't know this about him.
Yeah, I was in the airport and watching the planes take off. Very interesting. I always like to see planes take off. And the big glass window. And we were, my whole troop, we were in there. My whole platoon actually was in there. Fort Ord, California, Fort Ord. And we were sitting, looking out the window, and we took up most of a whole section where we were in our fatigues. So, you know, we had our fatigues on, our bags, duffel bags, fatigues, etc., being deployed. And someone behind me said, like just a straight voice, get up, leave, just like that. And I thought it was somebody talking to someone, you know, it didn't praise me. Then the voice said again, get up, leave now. And I looked back, and the seats behind us had a couple more rows of seats, but it was empty because most of the civilians were on the other sides, on both sides. We pretty much took up the whole right side of the place. And now I don't want people to think that I'm out to lunch or something, so I'm kind of like, what the hell? you know, so voice said, get up, leave. Right? So I took my Yashica A, that's a twin reflex camera, out my duffel bag, which I had next to me. And I took some civvies out, some, you know, civilian clothes. Mm-hmm. And I went in the bathroom, changed them. And I came back out, and everybody had left. They had left, were boarding, etc. So I went out, caught a cab. I went to Carmel and Joe's Point in California, taking pictures of seals, looking in the water and stuff like that. So, and then I went bowling.
Y'all gotta hear this. Y'all gotta hear this.
I went bowling. This is funny. I went bowling, and now it's dark. Now it's late, dark. So I'm going back to headquarters company, Fort Ord headquarters company, because I gotta get a new MO, because basically I'm AWOL. Technically, I'm in AWOL, truthfully. Right from the airport, I'm AWOL. So when I came back, one of my friends, who actually at the same time was from Pennsauken, named Gardner, and they saw me coming down the street, going back to the barracks, and because I was going to headquarters to get redeployed. And they was looking at me. He was Garner and Blair, I think it was Blair. Yeah. Said, they was looking at me all strange. You know, I was chilling, you know, coming in, because I took all these pictures and stuff like that. We thought you were dead. We thought you were dead. I said, what are y'all talking about? We thought you were dead. The plane crashed. You know, all 98 guys. It was 98. It
was actually,
they crashed on Gene Ortiz Ranch.
It was 92 and 6 crew members, because I looked it up.
And all of them were dead. All my friends were dead, etc. Everybody was killed. They crashed on Gene Ortiz Ranch.
And you can look this up, you guys. They don't mention him, but he was the 99th. Yeah, he would have been the 99th fatality in 1966 on that plane that he heard a voice say, get up and leave. And why is this significant? Because if you had listened to that voice, we would not have Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey today. And I'm not saying that the universe wouldn't have sent somebody else, but you had to face, and I know you went through court martial and all that stuff as a result of it, but you went
that's funny too. That's a whole nother.
But people don't realize how psychic and you know, because we've talked about other things that you know, you're very psychic and so forth, how you read a book by diving in it and stuff like that. People don't know these things about you. They just see they know that you're a master mason, carpenter, and you know, you can sing like, you know, Arthur Prysock and everybody like that, but they don't realize, I mean, this is to me the most, when I heard you, when you told me this about a year ago, I was like, we gotta write a book. Somebody gotta write a book about you and call it 99. Because if you had not listened to that, and you didn't even know what was on the internet, because I had, after you told me, I'm like, yeah, right. And I went to look it up, and 98 people died, 6 crew members and 92 recruits. You would have been the 93rd.
I was the only one survived
because you didn't get on the plane. And it's very, very well documented about the, the Gene Autry Ranch and that.
I never looked that up. I never did.
I looked it up.
Yeah.
I looked it up, you guys. So I'm trying to read what people are saying. And I thought that you all would get a newfound respect for this man.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
No. And his reason for being here. His reason for such a time as this to be giving us for the last 40 some years this level of enlightenment and just this push that we need to come out from under this pit that that we've been put in through disinformation and misinformation, de facto government and so forth. You had to survive. You had to survive because there are thousands upon thousands of people who have benefited and continue to benefit to this day to the things that come out of your mouth. But if it had gone any other way on that day I believe it was in 1966, because I looked it up.
Yes, it was.
I don't know what or where we would have been. You had to be here. You had to be here in order to lead the charge, so to speak, into this, out of this, I guess, we have these
and I never,
eras.
And with all due respect, I never looked at it that way. It's just that I started, was not new to me in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I didn't have these experiences at a younger age, but, I had to go through the, I think the dynamics that a lot of people do, accepting things so that you can feel a part, like a lot of things that you think or experiences that you have, you suppress them because you don't want people to think that you're out to lunch.
But I think we're more accepting today than people tended to sweep those gifts and those I call them those clair gifts, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all of those things. The ones that travel out of the body and know it. The ones that have become have been visited.
I left when I was 2 years old.
And you can't be okay. So you went out of the body.
Yeah, my father brought me back.
Okay.
Yeah, I had double pneumonia, and I passed. They sent me. As a matter of fact, the doctor who delivered me home, Dr. Primus, the guy, Mayor of Camden, Primus, that was his father, and friends of my family, and Dr. Primus, who at that time his office was on 8th and Pine in Camden, and the big house that was on the corner, and he delivered me home. At home. Yeah. And at 2 years old, I had a double pneumonia, and Cooper Hospital, they sent me home with my father, and I left in my father's arms, and my father sucked my nose and sucked my mouth, and he kept doing that. He stayed up. He was falling over, because I remember when he fell on the floor with me, he fell asleep. And he was sucking on my nose and spitting it out and sucking on my nose and then pushing on my chest. I remember that. And he was sucking on my nose and sucking on my mouth. And so I came back, then, when I was 2. I left twice, actually, and so my father brought me back. And there's a lot of experiences I had, as I was growing up, because I could see, which I told you about the gray haze.
You would know when someone was going to pass.
Yes. And, when you're young and you see things and you say things, and it takes you to start recognizing adults' responses to start feeling odd because you think it's normal and you think they see what you see. And then when they're looking at you like you're out to lunch, you begin to
suppress it.
Yes, and I used to do that all the time. A lot of
people out there do the same thing. I
used to do that all the time when I was young. And be honest with you, really until I actually got older, that I just started really saying to hell with it. I'm going to be who I am. And not try to be whatever image people think that I am or am not. Frankly, I don't give a damn. Not that I don't give a damn, but
right?
Because I really knew, and I do know a lot of the work that I was supposed to do. I knew it kind of really young, truthfully. That was not done because I was busy skirting the law. I called it skirting the law.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
The picket fence syndrome.
Yeah, skirting the law. you know, because there's a lot of things I was told not to do, and some things I was told, you know, what you're given an okay and a limit. But the interesting thing is, when you see some of these things, it's sort of like distractions, and you know where the limit of the law is, and you walk on the edge of the cliff because you know you can get away with it. You just make sure you don't overstep.
Right, right.
But you also know you ain't got no damn business being there either. No, I'm sure.
I get it. I get it.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I did that for quite some time, actually, into my adult age, until, you know, I had to pay attention to certain things that was said to me earlier that I violated. That's another reason why I'm dedicated now, is because I'm behind.
But you're playing catch up.
I'm playing catch up. You know, but that's personal. You know, I owe that. I owe that because I was actually going to leave when I was 35. That was the agreement.
Speaking of agreements, I say that we, and I've learned that we have five exit strategies normally when we come in. So we create 5 possible scenarios for our, you know, our exit out of various incarnations. You talked about, so you didn't get on the plane. You had 2 times when you were younger, maybe, and or. Oh,
there's another. Let me tell you.
You may have you gone beyond 5?
Oh,
so you did. So you.
Let me tell you, we were going down White Horse Pike.
Oh, the car.
Yeah, me and Butch.
Okay, yeah.
My friend Butch Furman, to pick up his mother.
I remember this.
He used to work at a place I think called Dewdrop Inn, something like
that.
The
Dewdrop Inn. My mom used to go there. Lawnside.
Lawnside.
Yeah, Lawnside. Yeah.
And we went to pick him up, and we're used to be 2 guys, and it's a depot now. And he had a Buick, a 53 Buick. He had restored, beautiful car restored. You know, old car restored. And we were going down White Horse Pike, and then of course, you know how those things come. You know, they just come. And so I said to him, I said, go on the back road. Don't go when we get off that turn off where you come going out towards you know, where you get off at Lawnside when you come off the highway.
Kind of, but yeah.
And I said, go on the back road behind 2 guys. That was 2 guys down. Don't go on White Horse Pike. Wait till you get past that section. And he said, well, we know we got to hurry up, and it ain't no big deal. So we going down White Horse Pike. And I told him, get in the right lane, get in the right lane, get in the right lane. You know, just.
Yeah, it was urgent that he get.
Yeah, get in the right lane. And he says, these people are too slow. I said, well, get in the right lane. And soon as I said, the 3rd time, car came speeding down on the other side and hit us head on. And it hit the car so hard that now the old Buicks, their frames, it folded just like an accordion, just like that. Like the middle of the car is up and the roof is on our heads, like, and the back seat is like this. Like,
yeah, closed up into the front. Yeah.
Yes, and we were like closed in front. And his mother was in there. Now, when the car came, as soon as I told him the last time to get in the right lane, the car hit us, blam. And I immediately put my hands up like this, because I was sitting in the middle, because I remember I was trying to get her to sit in the middle. She said, no, I'm tired. I'm going to go home and just, move over. And so he was all wrapped up in the steering wheel. She was underneath the dashboard, and she had a broken leg, broken arm, some ribs broke. His arm was twisted up, and he had broken arms. I don't remember his leg, but I know he has injuries here, and this little scar that you
put it up there to the camera.
See
right here. There's the camera up there.
Right there. You can't see it.
Put a little bit. Yeah.
That's all I had. And they had to cut us out the car and everything. And they was trying to put us in. They was putting everybody in the ambulance and everything. I was standing there. They just, lay down. I was, please. But it's sort of like I could see it coming, but it's not like it's not like you see it like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's almost like an imprint of knowing.
A premonition that
it's
even
not
that,
even like that.
just knowing.
It's like us looking at this right now,
mm-hmm.
and then we're moving on with our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a recall of this already in your mind.
Okay.
And then you simply back up
into it,
and then do like this.
Okay.
Which is why I did that.
But again, like I said, purpose, because you could have gone through the windshield.
I did.
You could have.
The windshield was busted. It busted.
Yeah.
It busted.
You were pretty much in the safety zone in the middle.
I was in the middle.
In the middle.
They was broke up.
Yeah.
So all I had was this, and because actually kind of shield them from. I was trying to shield them from going through the window.
Yeah, that's sort of a natural instinct.
I
mean, I've done it. Look, I've slammed on my brakes and had my pocketbook. Mm-hmm. And some stuff in the passenger seat, mm-hmm. and put my hand there, just instinctively,
that's instinctively
to shield my pocket. And I'm like, that's nothing but a pocketbook.
Instinctively.
But you do that. But I'm just saying for you, we talked about, and then I'm gonna get back because I know we'll do a couple more questions. But but I thought that was a good segue because I think people should need to know that about you. How you read a book.
Oh, when I was little, like my dad always read, right? He always had books. He wouldn't even go to the bathroom without a book.
I have books.
Yeah.
These are just a little bit of books.
This is only a little bit of your book.
I know.
You can't even see. This is only, they only see the books over and the books downstairs and the books in boxes.
And the thousands that I got rid of.
That you gave away. Yeah. Most of these people would be glad to have some of them books that you gave away.
I know. But anyway, how you read a book. Because I think that's interesting.
I think, like when you're a child, you have little imaginary things that you do, like some children have imaginary friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, I used to always collect. Me and my brother Albert, we'd take our little wagon and we'd go junking, and I would go to the old secondhand stores, and I would always look for old books, and I always had this feeling of going back mentally to get my stuff. I mean, that's in your mind, when you're a child, kind of silly, but that's what it was. And so I would buy all these old books that I really was, on disciplines, old books on science, grammatical books, stuff that really, was kind of a little sophisticated for me because I'm like 7.5. Mm-hmm. But those books, I wanted them, that I needed. You know how you can't do nothing with it, but you need it.
You need it for such. Is it going to be a time when
I needed it?
Yeah,
I needed it.
Yeah.
And so I used to, and one of the things I used to do, particularly with a lot of the older books, the real older books, because they were so thick and stuff, and I was 7, so I would and most of the time I would never go from the front. I would always go from the back.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a habit, and I'd read from the back to the front, even my old Bibles and stuff like that, because I had a Bible collection too. And what I would do, the shortcut, that's one thing I used to always call it shortcutting.
Mm-hmm.
I would go into the book, like, just like, like when you see like water, like a pool,
mm-hmm.
And like the letters are floating on the water, like a cellophane. That's how I would be looking to me in my imagination. And I would dive into the pool and turn over and come back to the words, and then you could absorb. You didn't have to read it in a sense. You could read a few lines, but basically you didn't need to, because then everything else, it just
absorbed into you.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
And I always read it from the backside. That's how I used to talk about it when I was little, reading it from the backside. And you could, like if you get into a lot of books, even with short stuff in it, you could actually pick up the spirit of the writer, and you could see things that they intended to say and didn't say. And you could also see where they're avoiding, or where I used to call it playing safe. Where they're playing safe.
You mean because there's so much more they could have revealed in that, but
yeah.
They're just giving it a nice little flowery cover up. Yeah.
Around 7 or 8, I could pretty much look at stuff and tell when a writer was hiding. I used to call it hiding.
How many books have you written?
About 33, 34.
Okay.
Something like that. And I used to write poetry too when I was.
I know you wrote the foreword to my poetry book. Yeah, I know that.
I used to write poetry, but anyway, that's how I used to read. But it wasn't like I did it with all stuff. I would do it with certain books that I had a feeling for. You know, and if I had a feeling for the book, all I needed to do was really just either. And this is how I would do. I would never do. I do it sometimes, but generally, I wouldn't open it up and start looking at the content. I wouldn't do that. I'd open it up, and wherever it fell, I'd read that. I'd read the one before and read the one after and close it, and I knew the book.
That would be.
And that's
fantastic thing, which should be something we could.
But I'm just saying that's.
But I was think that's your gift. But listen, I wanted to let you all know a little bit more about our National Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey from probably an angle that you may not have known, and because I think it's fascinating. I have the opportunity to talk to him all the time, and we get into really deep conversations. And so over the years of our friendship, I've been privy to some of this information that I'm grateful that you shared and allowed me to share tonight, because I think it really gives people a different perspective and really to see. I mean, you could be doing. I realize this. You could be doing anything. You're one of those people that is so multifaceted and adept. Not only a lot of people dibble and dabble at various things, and they okay, they can do that a little bit, and they may be a little bit better at that. But you tend to excel and become adept and beyond at almost anything you do. And the list is the list of things that you do is so vast that people don't even understand that. But then when they do, sometimes I can see why you keep those things sort of under wraps, because people would tend to
distracting.
Yeah, and because people want to. And so right now, since you're playing catch up, and it is important for the world to know who they are, for the Moors to know who they are. And I know, like one of the earlier questions was, about mobilization and how what I've seen in the last almost 8 years now that we've been working together. I've seen a difference in the I don't like to say caliber of people, but the first people that when I first met you and we announced that we were having classes at the House of Real Awakening Minds, the people that came were basically people. I mean, not that people today don't need remedy, but these were people that were trying to get trying to get out of child support, tickets. They were trying to stop their homes from being foreclosed, or find out what houses they could take, domiciles that they could, just because of their Moorish nationality. And these people literally, by and large, the ones I saw, they used to come regularly, had very little. A few of them had things, but most of them were trying to get something, didn't have anything. What I've seen over the years, I've seen firemen and executives and people with doctorate degrees and so forth, and various all walks of life, and not just local people have come from as far as and contacted and supported us from California, Khalifa territory, and Florida and New York State, and we've had England. I mean, they're over in Asia and so forth, and just people who are just saying, if this is the truth, educators, if this is the truth, then I need to know it. Why did it take this long for me to find out? And I know when I did my little rant a couple of months ago, why didn't they tell us? I've never been, I'm not going to lie, I have absolutely never been to a temple. I've seen temple services or so forth on YouTube, and what they appeared to me to be was like a reverse church. And not only was it reverse church, it was old time reverse church. Okay, just change the name that maybe don't say Jesus, but I don't know, but it was just church to me. So I wanted to know, I put the question out was, why didn't they tell us? Why didn't my parents, my grandparents, great-grandparents know that they were Moors and not Negro, Black, and color? Why was it, since the prophet has gone off scene, why did not the temples do that so-called evangelistic move and go and
on the hedges and the highways.
And the hedges and the highways, and let us know why it seems like, you know, when I get the phone calls from people who have discovered House of Reawakening Minds and your videos via you know, YouTube, or even if it's our Facebook page, they'll say something like, you know, and I went to the temple in my area and I told them that I found out I'm watching Taj Bay on House of Reawakening Minds, and they were like, you know what, we don't fool with them, we don't fool with him. Prophet didn't say it. How'd you find out about us? And I was like, is it a secret society? I don't know how many times people have said to me, they went to a temple and they, instead of welcoming them in, how'd you find out about us? Is what they want to know. Like, we don't need you rabble rousers coming in here because we are quietly doing our thing according to the plan. We are sticking to the script. We ain't making waves. We ain't there trying to build no great big national movement. How you find out about us? And so you see it. I hear it because I get calls, you know, House of Reawakening Minds every day, and that's it doesn't matter where it is. It's like, you know how they say they send out a communique to all of the various policy enforcement agencies around, and like, this is the script. It seems like they sent one out to the various temples too. Just the script. And if it's anybody that comes in here and they have been under the floors of that Taj Tarik bag or some of them other ones talking this nationalization stuff and this more science civic stuff and this that and the third, get rid of them. It's a compromise. They're gonna mess up your good thing. And that's what it seems like to me.
Well, it's true.
Because I mean, you tell people to go, but you know what?
I always send them to the temple.
You know they're gonna be broken and this.
It has to be their experience. Okay. You know, like a lot of times, if you tell people certain truths about things, rather than look and examine what you're saying to them, they'll take it as your opinion, and because of the misinformation that's out there, from a perspective of competing, when that's not what this is about.
Right.
And because that's what they're often told.
Right.
But if you notice, one of the things I would do is I would give them major statements made by the Prophet Noble Ali. I'll give them a timeline on the establishment of the institutions. I will give them history of jurisprudence, of color law that obviously is put in place as a countermeasure to Noble Ali once you do the research. Then I send them to the temples. And then I'll also reference them to the FBI papers, to the COINTELPRO operations of J. Edgar Hoover, and let the record show what's up. And then as soon as they go to the temples, they will see for themselves not what they're against, what's against them.
Absolutely.
And then you don't have to tell them anything. It becomes obvious. Now, if you just say it, which is obviously true, people will take it that you're attacking the temple, which is not true.
And because you say it's not the temple,
it's not.
It's the administrators, right?
It's many of the administrators are corrupted and compromised. And when the people make references to the temple, they will look at the administration and think that that's what the temple is. Now, if you'll notice, this is one of the paradoxes. Anybody that does research into the microfilm and into the history will see that the old Canaanite temple operations, even up to the Moorish Temple of Science, also referred to as the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, was a civic organization. And that the Moorish Holy Temple of Science was registered by the Prophet, Noble Ali, as a civic organization. And you will immediately notice that many of the grand governors and grand sheiks and sheikesses of the Moorish Science Temple of America will attack literally anyone that even says the word civics.
Yeah.
When the 90% of all the work that the Prophet Noble Ali did was civic in its nature. Even the issue of nationality itself is a civic platform. And so the deal of it is, once people study for themselves, you don't have to tell them anything. It becomes obvious. But because we want people to protect the integrity of the temple, we keep reminding them there's nothing wrong with the temple.
Right.
What's the problem has been corrupt administrators. But the people need to see it for themselves so that they themselves can start protecting the Prophet, the movement, and the nature of the divine movement. and recognize that it is universal and that they're not locked in by the corruption that many of the grand governors and grand sheiks of the Moorish Science Temple themselves personally have maintained, not to be confused with the good brothers and sisters who have been in the temples and have been misrepresented or painted with that nasty brush of treason.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's so.
It becomes obvious once you're erudite into the principles, you measure things by principles, not by what Taji says or what anyone else says, and it becomes obvious. And many people who get into this information who start off starkly contrary to it, once they start doing the research and they start recognizing it's their birthright, some of those people have been some of your strongest Moors, actually. Speaking
of, when you mentioned erudite, I had a conversation with an educator friend of mine last week about, and I think he works. He's a teacher. He's a so-called teacher, and you know, I said, so he's a part of the HBCU stuff and all that stuff. So I said, gave him the difference between an education and becoming an erudite scholar. And he had never heard of it. And he was fascinated. I said, so really, basically, the children that, and I think he works even with children, even more so with the special ed. So, you know, they're even putting another category altogether, even below the education, which is basically training of animals, as you said.
Yes,
but for people to know that when segregation came about, I mean, integration rather came about, and we wanted to get into their schools and so forth. Well, prior to integration, we had our own schools, right? We had our own, where, you know, we were learning or erudite, erudition systems. So,
which were tailing off from our Asiatic African roots, which the Europeans were constantly destroying, subverting, and discouraging.
Okay.
You know,
because I was looking at a documentary today that was very interesting, because if you start to look at the timelines and so forth with slavery and so forth, you go from slavery supposedly abolished in what, 1860, allegedly in 1865 or something like that, to within not so many years after, you see our people affluent with the cars and the businesses and all of the hotels, and you know, they try to make like Madam C.J. Walker the first black millionaire, but they want to put like BS, BS stuff, like this was the first one. But we had, especially even out
others that I've never mentioned in
the West, and so that it was shortly after the alleged Emancipation Proclamation. And if they, how do you go from being a raggedy, you know, slave on a plantation to being having grand pianos and so forth, and having you know, boom towns and so forth
as part of reconstructed history.
If that was the truth, then and then what I also understand is that a lot of pictures that have been put in his so-called history books, we know about history,
controlled and distorted,
right? They would take pictures of people on their own land,
and then say that they were servants.
They would say they were servants. Like, they might not have been all dressed up, but they were generations. They worked the field.
Generations. They worked the field. Matter of fact, you know, we had to teach the European how to grow stuff,
right?
Because he was dying.
So they put these pictures of family members in their books as alleged slaves that were on plantations when they were standing from their own property on their own land.
Now, under the Christian doctrine of discovery, this is what they would do. Like, say, they would come to the different areas, and on a larger scale, and they simplify it like in a sort of like a historical package when they talk about the Trail of Tears type thing. This is what they would do. They come on the land, and the Constantinians are under the doctrine of discovery and the unum sanctum policy sanctioned by the United States corporation government. They come on your land, they like the land, they are allowed to go in, take you, your family, and murder you and bury you and claim the land, and then convert all Aboriginal titles and allodial titles to mortgages and deeds. The official act of doing it on a paper scale, officially, on a large scale was 1913.
Now, when Dr. Martin Luther King made that speech where he talked about that act of Congress that gave the Europeans this, they say that was the sort of the coup de grace for him, because he pretty much exposed exactly what you're saying about what they did and took the land and gave it to, not only gave them the land, but gave them low interest loans and an ability to. And remember,
the low interest loans were really not money. They were actually what you would call liens against our estates.
Well, he also said that
bonds.
He said also, and even back then he said, and they paid them not to farm.
Exactly, correct. You know, and what you see, as an example, almost all.
Apologies, this is we kind of lost contact for a moment. Hopefully, you all will come back. We're going to be ending it soon, but I didn't want to. We didn't want to leave abruptly the way we did, but for some reason this camera got a little sensitive and it left its space. So I don't know whether we went over time or what. Okay, thank you all for coming back. I don't know what happened. We're just gonna call this part 2. We'll get it together. My apologies. But so what were you saying, Sheik?
I said most of you, the listeners, I know my family, and I know most of you who are listening, if you can go back not even a few generations, just a couple of generations, can talk about history in your family, where your family has had large plots of land that has been systematically taken from them through false taxation by the municipal operators of the cities, boroughs, and townships and counties. And it's often forgotten after a couple of generations, but almost all of you and all your families have that story. I have that story. I've seen it, and I know that's the same with a lot of people. And yet it's not a conversation that goes on regularly.
No, because you got people that move, north and so forth to the younger generation.
And most of them were in the younger generation because they was taken off the land.
Right.
And many of them because the Europeans were robbing them, would come to the cities to try to survive. And then, of course, because many of them had been so heavily influenced under the Constantinian order, they were become what you call conversos, or what is known as Christianized Negroites. And so they were seeking what they thought was a better life, actually leaving their estates.
Right.
And if you'll notice, like, while a lot of people talk about Martin Luther King, there's a lot of statements that he made in his late life that they avoid promoting.
Right.
Including his apologies for leading our people under the civil rights banner, recognizing how much damage he had done.
So he had gotten to a point, like I said, where he was basically
analyzing
what he had done
his history, and recognizing it wasn't.
So now he had become a liability instead of an asset.
That actually his goodwill for our people, he recognized that he was actually setting a consciousness that was actually destructive while he thought he was actually helping them, because he started recognizing that all of our businesses, all of our schools, all of our sense of independence in the name of integration was being lost and stolen. And the coming generations were willingly giving it up, thinking that they were making progress. Now, and he saw the pattern coming about, that we would have no economic security whatsoever, and that we were becoming subject in the name of integration and actually losing everything, which is exactly what was happening.
So he basically was, like you said, he saw the error of his ways.
Yes.
And he was trying to make amends to his people.
Also, because remember, he's a Mason too.
Right. So those were the things that, like you said, now you're finding tapes and various things. Like, for instance, even I saw a tape where Brother Dick Gregory showed during the trial, excuse me, because the King family sued the government for wrongful death, and the one reverend who I don't know whether he was testifying or talking before or whatever, but he basically talked about how that day in Memphis or wherever they were, he is the one that called him. He was supposed to go out for dinner with him, and he and Reverend Abernathy, and he was the last one to see him alive, and that he went out in the balcony and that he stepped to the side to give them a clear shot.
They all
and I'm like,
stepped aside
to give them a clear shot. I mean,
sure.
so here you are reverend, and you are complicit in the murder.
Let's get this clear. Let's get this clear. One of the problems that all of us have and have had, and it's quite difficult, is that when some man or woman says reverend, sheik, imam, rabbi, that there's an assumption that they have honor and integrity.
That's true.
And that when we start discovering the dark sides, that we usually run to this idea that they have fallen from grace, rather than looking at the history and recognizing that they were never in honor from the beginning. It's just that the people started waking up and seeing all of this paradigm structure for what it, in this blind sense, always was. Not unlike, for instance, like in the recent years, say the last 20, 25 years, when many of the European families, not so much the Asiatic families, because they had very little political strength into the judicial system, but many of the European families, their sons and daughters are growing up totally out to lunch, and then having children who are out to lunch because they're out to lunch, and they started suing the churches for the real history of what they pedivores and pedophilia, which has always been a part of. They didn't just
start,
always been a part from day one. Now, and so people looked at that like it was a revelation, and that the church fell. Church didn't fall.
It was never up.
It was
always low.
It was always what it always was. People's images of what they thought these institutions were and are is, in other words, the illusion. The illusion of divinity given to churches, mosques, synagogues, and all these institutions has been very damaging to humanity.
But that illusion goes in line with the age, the Piscean age, which is fraught with illusion and deception and fear and interpretation. All those things go along with that Piscean age.
The metaphysical applique of the Piscean age is, I believe.
Right.
And so therefore, from a metaphysical point of fact, you know, of the nature of things, the priesthood had what you call a open field for their anthropomorphic presentment for self-service and self-amelioration. And that is a fact. And of course, when you do the research, it is all there to be seen. More than enough to be seen. Of course, when someone goes into the history and the record, the images will not start to collapse. They will literally collapse and fall apart. Now, so many people are tied mentally into the different so-called religious organizations that there's a sense of trying to defend the image of their organizations, when in fact they know in their hearts that these people are corrupt.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're bad people in the sense of just going around being bad necessarily. No, they're just simply corrupt from day one. The organization is corrupt. They've been lying on Jesus, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, everything else. And almost all of the men, notice that it's always males, 90%, lock the women out. They live wealthy at the expense of the poor. The miseries that come on the poor for the sake of their poverty is blamed on the devil, who's a scapegoat. No one's supposed to examine any of this. Adults and children alike are supposed to really believe without question that Jesus got a bank account at Chase Manhattan, Citibank, whichever account, because they never account for the accounts of accounting. And all God's lovely children that he loved, they always damn broke. You know, I mean, it's sickening, but that's just simply the truth. Now, the other deal, fact, not fiction, not deep research, shallow research. What do you discover? Not only is the church and the state one, but the state belongs to the church.
Okay.
And that includes all of back to the earlier statements talking about the different states.
The estates that
yes. George Washington, a Mason, is given honor as the founder of the Germanic Dutch-German nation state operations under unum sanctum and the doctrine of discovery for the Queen of England, etc., under their secret treaty of Verona, of their artificial cover-up imposter nation, which they call the United States. Now, that's the truth. And his credit goes to him for converting all of the Moorish Bonnevilles and estates into what is known commonly in history as the states. So the states were really in relationship to, there's approximately 13 European families that have been claiming the Moorish estates since the Spanish Inquisition and the takeover of the Yetta in Europe, which we get the word ghetto from, which was actually the opposite, of taking over the wealth of the Moors and claiming the estates, including the Queen of England, that under short research, even right now, you can find, even in European records, now Europeans are telling the truth, that the whole platform and the Queen of England, etc., and that whole royal family is a fraud. All of them is a fraud. Not only the rest of them, the whole so-called royal family platform is a fraud. And anybody wants to, not what I say, not what Taji guys say, but look what Europeans are saying now, because they're tired of the crap now too. Why? Because everybody's being injured. And so they're being forced to tell certain truths to try to save themselves. But the same way that will be discovered quickly, because that can be another subject in its own, is the same thing you're going to find about everything else. Number one, and these are questions for you, the listeners, to ask your so-called religious guys. Just ask Reverend Pigfoot and Pastor Petunia why they never tell the people the official name of Christianity, which is the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. Ask the Reverend how come when they're doing Bible studies, they never go into the Septuaginta. Ask the Reverend how come when they're talking about the history of the Bible and their so-called spirituality, etc., why they never refer to the one they call as Jesus as Yahushua. Ask them that. Ask them also how come they, when they're so-called doing Bible study, that they never go into the Nicene Council of 325 AD and 781. Why they don't never tell that history. Why? I'll tell you immediately on any one of those questions. It is because immediately their immediate political platforms will collapse. They will be recognized as the liars that they are immediately. And it doesn't mean that they're bad guys and bad girls. It means that they're caught. It's a whole con artist platform, whether they're taking $5 from you or $100 from you or whatever bonuses of Roman taxes, which is what the word, so look up the word tithe, go into your old dictionaries, and you'll see that tithe is Roman tax. It ain't got nothing to do with no Jesus. It ain't got no to do with ancient Canaan. It ain't got nothing to do with no donations to the Lord. It's the Lords of London, and tithe means 10% Roman tax. And the priesthood, whether you're talking about Calvinism, Hellenism, the protesting daughters that they call the Protestants, Lutheranism, etc. These are all priests of the Jesuit orders that were battling each other over the spoils. Some got more than the others, and this is where your old protesting orders of the priesthood come from, that they call now Protestant churches. And they take the altered and modified Bible with them because they're still part of the Jesuit order. And the real deal of it is, this is also why the scholars and the people keep claiming to have this divine religious belief will never show the people the clergy's real oath, which is Article 3, Trinity, Article 3, of the secret Treaty of Verona, where they pledged their allegiance to the Pope of Rome, not to Jesus, and his document is not even hidden. However, and that's only the tip of the iceberg, and that the 501c3 agreement set up by Lyndon Baines Johnson to control their Negro marching leader guys, whose job it is to get our people to give up all their hotels, all their schools, all their stores, and go eat at that time they called Woolworths and Horn and Hardocks and stuff like that, where they beat them up if they came in there to eat. Now they don't even have their own places anymore. This is what Martin was talking about when he said our people are refugees in their own land. When he started making those kind of statements, of course, he's a Mason, he knows it anyway. And I ain't knocking them, just telling the truth. The truth is what it is. Get over yourselves. And people been trying to preserve the images of these Negro leader guys and not accept the fact that they were led into a pit. Now they got plastic cards. They got no of their hotels, none of their lands, none of their corner stores. And everybody's been sucking off them ever since. And now they're subject to every damn thing. And the dolls get treated better than them under the name of their civil rights crap. Now, that's just simply fact. So get over it. Start studying. Start going back to the principles of your ancient mothers and fathers. Stop calling the foreign Europeans white people, which is a legal status, not a complexion. And stop calling them Americans. And start acting like you know. And start looking for remedies. Stop looking for something to believe in. Start dealing with knowledge. Anyway, I yield the floor to that. So let me not rant on that. But
I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions. Are we minority because Asher says, are we minority because we aren't handling our own affairs, aka paperwork?
Exactly. And this is what people need to know. And this is again why for years, you know, we've been encouraging people to recognize, not on opinion, but on fact, that law and history goes together. And don't go into history without law books, whether you're dealing with Ballantyne's, dealing with Bouvier's, dealing with Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary of Ancient and Modern Jurisprudence. Law and history goes together. And what has happened with our people, they get a lot of Afrocentric data and don't know anything about jurisprudence and don't respect it, and then try to use the data of some of the great things that we've done in history and pat each other on the back and can't fix a damn thing because they have no effect into the status of the people or the law other than playing on people's egos. Meanwhile, they can't fix a damn thing. And then the European uses his color venues of feudal law courts under the control of the barristers of England, who are licensed profiteers under the secret Treaty of Verona. That's a fact. And in violation of the Constitution to rape them. And they've been doing exactly that. And then paying off the Negro assigned leader guys who are 32 and 33 degree Masons. In all due respect, I ain't knocking none of them. But if you want to talk about Jesse Jackson, Abernathy, Martin Luther King, all the rest of them are 32 and 33 degree Masons. In secret got a Moorish fez, belong to a lodge with a Moorish name, and run around calling their own people black Indians and crap, knowing that they're lying while they get kickback benefits 501c3 from Lyndon Baines Johnson, who helped kill Kennedy for enforcing Article 1 of the Constitution, bringing back the gold standard. So let's talk about what's really up here. And so our people have been suffering, and these people have been marching them all over the place and still going back to the law and jurisprudence and correcting these people's statuses, and stop calling this European sovereign, because these people don't know that white man means sovereign of the land. It does. It means that's not opinion. That's what it means. And then they get mad because when he acts like the sovereign, who do you think he God and shit? Well, they need to stop calling him that. And don't get mad. You call somebody God and he started acting like it. Why should you be mad? You know, let's get over it.
What do you think about this question that President Trump is trying to get on the 2020 census about whether or not you are a U.S. citizen. What are the implications?
Yeah.
What are the implications for that?
The doo-doo is hitting the fan. Keep in mind, these foreign Europeans have been spending so much time attacking our Mexican brothers and sisters, our Trinidadian brothers and sisters, our Jamaican brothers and sisters, our Borican brothers and sisters, our Brazilian brothers and sisters, and all of our brothers and sisters from the islands and from Central America, that they never thought the doo-doo would hit the fan. So now they're challenging everybody else's identity, right? And now that they're losing economic control over their treasury bonds, etc., now they want to start closing borders, and everybody want to identify, and the census and all this stuff. See, because the deal is, what they've done with the U.S. Census, they've taken these brand names that are actually private corporate copyrighted names like Negro, Black, Colored, Puerto Rico, and stuff like that. And they've tagged these people, and the people are starting to find out when they agreed to be these tags, they actually became wards of the state. And the Europeans been robbing them. Now that people are starting to wake up and recognize that these words aren't just misnomers, that they are nom de guerre. Translation in law, war names. And so they've been stealing these people's estate. And they finally, some of these people, finally have gotten out of their emotionalism and protecting their different organizations, and recognizing that organizations have nothing to do with their pedigree or their bloodline, and are starting to look at their pedigree and their bloodline, and they're starting to dump these brand systems. And so what's happening, that the Europeans' bonds and the birth certificate bonds and all these other bank bonds that they've been peddling around the world, the nations don't want them anymore. So now they can't float bonds. Did you notice that in all of your municipal territories, and these are political territories, not geographic, that the cities are in trouble, particularly with your larger cities, because they can't float bonds anymore? Did you notice that? Did you know that that in governmental levels, that they don't use what you call dollar bills, they use bonds? And this is what people need to understand. Now, so the nations ain't buying their bonds, and they can't float bonds. So let me tell you what's going to happen to Los Angeles, Chicago, Boston,
Well, Philly,
Philadelphia, all your major cities.
New York, yeah.
They're going to implode. It's like I'm in Shechem territory. We call it Renapi. They'll say Lenape is Renapi with an R. Renapi. It's actually Renapi. So Lenape territory. You go buy a bottle of soda that costs 99 cents in Philadelphia, you'll pay $1.90 for it, because the rest of it is tax.
Yeah, they got a sugar
They're
tax.
robbing. They're robbing
tax.
the people any kind of way they can. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to keep robbing these people till there ain't no more to rob from these people, because these people ain't going to have sense enough to throw these people out of office, because they're not your government in the first place. They're sucking, leech, blood-sucking foreign Europeans pretending to be government, and they've been getting over and over and over and over and over on the people, then sending out commercial mercenaries called policemen to systematically kill men and women to steal their organs. And be careful about your wallets, because they always call it a gun and stuff like that, so they can murder people, murder women. They jump on men and women that are unarmed, and they're always, they beat them up and call them the terrorists, etc. And these people think that they are law. They are commercial mercenaries enforcing the secret treaty of Verona and the doctrine of discovery. And the rest of the world is waking up to it. And the same thing they've been doing to us on a systematic basis, they didn't take it out and done it to the rest of the world. The rest of the world's getting tired of it and are coming together. It's called the Uniting of Asia. And they're not buying them UST bonds. So this is why Trump's around, dumping all them old so-called treaties, because they're trying to make new treaties or trade agreements, because, and this is for all of you all that keep investing in the systems, 90% of all international trade windows on the planet Earth are frozen as I speak. So it's only a matter of time where you all can't fake this stuff anymore with your beliefs and all of your so-called fake religious organizations that are part of the very system that's been suppressing you. It don't have nothing to do with Allah, Jesus, Moses, or Muhammad. Got every damn thing to do with the popes of Rome and the P2 Mason order of the Freemasons who've been misrepresenting Masonry and misrepresenting your history and raping you with the help of your 32-degree Mason reverends who've been talking against Masonry on the tables while in secret are Masons themselves, including their paid-off 501c3 skull and bone kickback Negro marching civil rights leader guys who are all being exposed with their Roman bosses, and the Bar Association of England, who've been running the judicial system at North America since 1789. Yep, that's right. And there ain't been a lawful court. It hasn't been a lawful court operating on this land since then. Get over it. Wake up. Act like you know. And if you're so damn spiritual, stop begging for peanut butter sandwiches. and stop introducing broke guys to your children. That's for starters.
That was a mouthful.
That
was like.
No, they're full of it. And we really need to stop excusing, this corruption that we've been panning off or pawning off on the civilized world in the name of Black Afrocentricity culture when it's bullshit. Now that's the truth.
Yeah, that whole, that whole thing. I guess a lot of people know this by now, but it bears repeating that, they eventually proved that Alex Haley colluded to create the Roots book and saga, which he stole one from a European's fictional book and created a frenzy of trying to connect us back to Africa and also spawn these DNA companies that then started stealing our DNA and telling us we were from hither, there, and yon, trying to disconnect us from the land.
That's
the whole
the
stuff was a bunch of bull crap, and we were all, we hung about.
The whole mission is to disconnect these people from the land. Other thing, deal with any international anthropologists, including Europeans, who will tell you the truth, and they will tell you no more than 2% of the Asiatic African people who they claim were brought here is no more than 2% that was shifted around. Over 98% of all of us were already here, are the direct descendants of old Mexim, what you call Olmec. We are the people of the land, and this ain't India. So get over
it. Yeah. It's just that we don't know, and we have been so indoctrinated to like you said, we're coming out of it because you can feel the energies of I know. We talked about the Piscean age was I believe, but the Aquarian age is I know.
It will not allow it anyway.
Right.
From a divine.
Right. So we're in the I know. The I know energy is flowing in, and we're feeling it. So people like yourself, like myself, that are older but still open to receiving that, and the younger generation that chose to come in for such a time as this, who have not been indoctrinated into the I believe and refuse to believe.
They ain't buying it.
No, they're not doing it.
That's
how I have always known that in the Bible when it says this is a generation that seeks thy face, O Jacob, that it was written in a now. It was not written in a then.
It was now.
It was written in the now.
They are living the history.
Of course, we know that now, then, and when is all together. But I always saw it as, but this is now. This is not something that was said whenever that we think that was written. But this is now.
It's an interesting thing to do.
What's that?
For those of you who are listening to hear, because we're in Dr. Nailah's office.
Yep. Drinking some juice and eating some pretzels.
Matter of fact, maybe next time we'll turn it around so they can see some of your other arts and some of your other books and stuff. Because we can use any wall in here. It'd be a good backdrop, any wall.
We thank Sister Tamara L. for redecorating my, my office space.
But for those of you really who honestly want to kind of look at this more metaphysically, and being really honest. And this is also for those who will try to counter what we're saying to you. Let's do this as an exercise. Find one, and write it down. So-called religious platform that's not now under question on the planet. Find one political system on the Earth planet, Gaia, that's not under question now. Find one political organization or agency on the planet Earth that's not under question now. Find one economic institution, bank, etc., doesn't matter, that's not under question now, and whose leaders and administrators directly or indirectly are trying to make statements, say things, do things to try to maintain the appearance of integrity with any one of those agencies or organizations. All of them, from a credibility point of view, have none. That's N-O-N-E. And their big struggle now is trying to win the hearts and minds of men and women and children on the planet who no longer trust them or believe in them, because the dead, blind faith has been their strength. It is their bloodline. And when the people start believing in the bullshit, it starts stinking. They thought it was chocolate. Chanel VO5 or some kind of stuff. Chanel number 5. You know? Chanel number 5. Yeah. Pierre Funk, whatever. Yeah. The stuff is funky. You know, now the people no longer believe that that brown stuff on the lawn is peanut butter growing out of grass, that people have been walking their dogs. They're over it. Reverend Pigfoot, who wants a $60 million plane to go tell the other people on the other side of town about the God that made him, that made us, that for some reason can't communicate with his own creation, whatever. It needs him.
You know, it's funny that you would say that, because it's interesting. You know, when I was, you know, pastoring, and I didn't see the stupidity in this, the irony in it then, because I was still under the indoctrination. But they would literally take their missionaries to India and they're in Africa, and then they would create a story around the crucifixion of Jesus, but it would be written in the language, and it would include the peoples of whoever. If they went to India,
and they would always bend it according to the culture.
Right. So the culture, they would be the ones that murdered Jesus. And so that would be the way that they'd be in there crying. They out in the woods with a big old sheet up there, showing them a thing on a video thing, and they crucified Jesus. Then they go to Tagalong, wherever that was, because they got different Bibles and these things, and they'd have one set up for them. Now, how could everybody in every nation, every culture have killed Jesus? You know, but they would
now they're in debt. Now they're in debt.
Now you got so you got
all of a sudden they owe the church.
And over in Africa, you literally have fools that are up there doing these shenanigans and playing with the people's minds, and got them pushing to this side of the room and that side of the room, and then running them out the front door and have them roll in the grass and eat grass. I'm like, what kind of bull crap is this? What does this prove? Except, you know, some kind of, you know, hocus pocus crap that people are easily influenced, because if you can get them to do that, then you can then empty their pockets. If you get them to eat grass and roll around,
implying that the priest has superior power,
right? Power.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And then if you don't give him $5, God gonna be mad at you and kick your ass and shit.
Well, but as you were saying earlier, it's like time's up. It's like, you know, okay, the jig is up. Folks are now seeing and feeling. It's not only seeing, but when you feel that in your gut. Let me just say this. I guess, Grand Sheik, we are saying some stuff. We are absolutely saying some stuff.
The truth is what it is.
Facebook does not like, because this is the third time or second time
they have shut this
down. So
see, because remember, they're
don't
local,
like what we're saying.
Their local Negroite leader guys
are
have been working to keep our people in a state of passivity.
Right.
And they do not want
disinformation,
assertive and solid and researchable knowledge to be presented to the people.
Right.
Yes, it makes people uncomfortable, but that's not why it's given. It's given to slay naivety,
right,
which has been damaging our communities. And as these people lose their naivety, they're going to find out a lot of questions that they ask that they're looking for this outside cure actually comes from them. It's all internal.
It's on the inside. That's
all
right.
internal.
Right.
They themselves will start solving their own problems.
Well,
the game is up. The gig is up. Mm-hmm. The priesthood, I don't care what so-called religion they claim, question everything. But when you question everything, do some research. Don't have any biases. Don't accept any biases from us. Don't accept any biases from anyone else. Do your own research. We share certain things to give you points of reference so that you can do research. But I say this to all the listeners, a little bit of research. 99% of all of these so-called religious organizations would collapse overnight. Then go back to the fundamental truths. Embrace the truth and build on it. With that, I yield the floor.
Well, I want to thank you. I know it's getting late, and they have shut us down a couple times. I don't know what the heck what it is, but we thank you all for tuning in to the feed stop. Brother Andre just sent me a text message that the feed stop. They keep stopping us. I guess we are hitting some nerves and some stuff here. I hope that these videos get saved. I hope that they, even if they stopped it, I'm gonna have to go back and call part 2 and part 3 because they kept stopping us. But we really wanted to come and just talk to you candidly. You know how we are anyway. This is real talk. We really sitting up here in this hot office. We got some air going there. I should have turned that, that thing will rotate.
Oh, that's cool.
It'll rotate, but it'll go like that and that. But anyway, we just wanted to talk to you all about things that, we end up having conversations about, or people have called and inquired about, and, what in a casual setting. I mean, because like I said, we did not do our regular broadcast, but we hope that the things that we have talked about, are of interest to you and have enlightened you in some areas. I'm going to put the link up again, but first of all, I want to thank those of you who responded to our sort of, I want to call it the stress call, but we put out a text a week and a half or so ago and let you know that we are really experiencing a reduction or decline in our physical attendance, because so many people just, have the benefit now of being able to watch online. And sometimes, it's easy to take it for granted. Oh, well, it's on, but you don't realize that we have a physical location and we have expenses and compensation and things that we like to do. We got to keep the lights on and the various, air running. And, we have a serious problem. I want to call on, a group that can come to the House of Reawakening Mind, especially particularly brothers or women who don't mind getting themselves dirty, because we have a big situation that we need to undertake in the building. And while Grand Sheik has a lot of skill and ability, it's something that we really need to get a team together, as well as finances. We talking, we probably got about a 12, 15,000
easy
note situation that has to be taken care of. And those of you who responded a couple weeks ago and sent a donation, thank you. We appreciate that, because we were getting low, and we have to do a lot of things with what you send. None of it is salary. No, I'm not paid. Tamara's not paid. Grand Sheik and Brother Abdullah and Brother Aaron and Father Hannibal got minimal things. I mean, embarrassingly low compensation for the great work that they do. We basically have to maintain the building that we have, and keep the internet and the this and that. It takes over $1,000 a month, if you will, to just keep the building going, let alone. But we have a situation, and you are a contractor, and it's probably going to be like about 15,000 notes
easily.
We need, and this I'm adding this towards the end. And I'm hoping that you all will see this, hear this, and realize it has nothing to do. And my trip, I'm just going to tell you that my trip to Puerto Rico, however you say it.
Bourdain
has nothing to do with your funds. Are not sending me to Puerto Rico. My funds are sending me to Puerto Rico. I don't use the funds that come in to the House of Reawakening Minds for anything personal. I'm putting that out that we do not. But what we do need to do is we need to raise about probably at least 15,000 notes just to fix the problem. And there might be some of you out there that are what skills, what do we need from a standpoint of skill set?
Well, mainly help
from a
and it's more material,
right?
More material actually than even the other stuff, because basically a few people this is what's going on. We have to do some actual physical structural brick and concrete work, but
we got about a 12-foot dig down.
Yes, plumbing replacement. You have old black pipe that was actually running the water, which also busted when the bricks fell out of the back window onto the pipes. That all has to be taken out all the way back to the front and actually restored with 3/4 copper pipe.
Okay, so
that's one of our major problems. And then of course
the whole back needs to be
pull part of the ceiling down, and then that all has to be restored. The whole walls in the back where it was rotted from the water coming in hidden, including the back of the floor being jacked up and then reset. And then also the back walls of the toilet actually being rebuilt, including the platform, and then all the hardware, everything has to be redone in there, including the sheetrock, placement of the doors, etc. All the immediately obvious stuff, including the installation of sump pump in the back to keep the water in check, etc., including the parging in the back of the building. So it's really far more than that, but mainly is because we've been doing the labor.
Right.
And
you've been doing.
We haven't been, we haven't been charging what you would call the market labor.
Right.
So our major issue would be more materialist, the materials type thing.
Right.
Because it's extensive, but it's really long-term maintenance. And also some of the built-in problems of the contractors that they shortcut it and you didn't know until we opened up the walls and saw what they didn't do as well as what they did. So it's along those lines. And it might be well for you even go down there, take pictures and post some of it for them. But it's kind of ugly.
It's kind of ugly.
But, we don't want do what we got to do.
Yeah, we do. Y'all, it's hot. Y'all, it's hot. You see me sweating. You see this? I'm sweating like what do you say? I'm sweating like a Hebrew slave. But anyhow, we have, that's why we put that out there, and some of you responded, and but not nearly as many as we know who watch our videos and know exactly what what we're going through.
And then other people who post who generate finance off our videos.
Right. Yeah. You say, I saw it on the YouTube video, and I was like, we don't have a YouTube. Is the people who will take this video. Hopefully they'll take this one too, this part 3. So you'll see us talking about the fact that we need your support. And I'm going to say it verbally, because none of the comment stuff, when they upload the videos to their video, they don't see the comments that we put in there. But if you would support us and send
and look at this.
Can we discharge the debt?
Now let's hold on. Let me just make a mention on that.
Okay.
But finish saying what you're saying. I want to make.
Well, I know that's easier said than done, but he'll talk about it. But in the immediate, we've never wanted to compromise and fight anybody to possibly lose this platform, this venue that we have. So we have persisted over the last 8 years ever since it was not doing what we used to do and had the income that we used to have coming in to keep things going. So while that might be an option or something that we learn about that and so forth, on a practical level, if we started playing with them 9 times out of 10, we would have no venue.
They use color of law, and then you still have to fight them.
Right.
Because the deal of it, because it represents the collapse of their whole system, because their whole system is pilfering. This is what people need to understand. The problems that they're having with most of the owners of the municipalities is that their whole foundation of operations is built on pilferage and also robbing estates. So it's not so the lack of due process is actually part of their system. Matter of fact, the feudal system was set up to deny due process, which is why we have difficulty. And of course, the corruption with the network of the barristers is because the people who have been misrepresenting themselves as judges and magistrates are really secret members of the Barristers Association under the secret Treaty of Verona. And all of the court systems are corrupted. And this is why we have not been getting any remedy too. And so again, the sooner our people wake up and start rejecting the Europeans' claim of authority on our land, the sooner things can start turning themselves around. They'll be turning around because of your activities. Right. Now, I was noticing on here where the brother was talking about how can we discharge the debt. One of the things that our people need to know from the door, that the whole claim of debt is a fiction. Not only is the fiat a fiction, the claim of the debt, of the national debt itself is a fiction. The debt didn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. Never did. That is a lie from the beginning, but they've been promoting it and promoting it and promoting it so that people can think they're in debt. Understand, the whole platform upon which that claim is made is a fraud. It all has to do with transference of private commercial paper belonging to the Jesuit order, etc., with one of their Franciscan Brotherhood Roman Curia membership, known as the Roman Curia, operating under what is known as the Federal Reserve, the Pierce family, the Bush family, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, Rothschilds, etc. All of them are part of the extended families of Europeans that have been claiming Asiatic property around the world under the unum sanctum operations and the doctrine of discovery, and then pretending that the people that they colonized owe them something. And this is where your so-called national debt are. Because remember, the Europeans are not the nationals. We're the nationals. They are U.S. corporate citizens who have been taking the authority, cribbing the authority, misrepresenting the authority as the nationals of the land, and they're not nationals. They're actually foreign occupational operators operating from the beginning under fraud. That's like someone coming, breaking in your house, stealing your stuff, and then telling you that you owe them something for the TV that they stole from you. Same thing with the fake national debt, because it doesn't exist. What you have is colonial operations. That's what you have.
Yeah, and some, yeah, but some. I want to also say, but if you are a mason, like a brick mason, that kind of person, that, and like I said, we certainly could use their help. If they, you know, their skills, you know, you have that.
Anyone that has what you call plumbing, carpentry, and masonry skills.
Right. So
seriously,
if you're interested in helping us with your physical, with your labor expertise, please contact us at 302-345-0500 or email us at houseofreawakeningminds@gmail.com, or send us a message on our right here on our House of Reawakening Minds page. This is real stuff. I mean, we want to keep this going. We want to see it through. I think that's why we're here. That's why we incarnated to be here for such a time as this. You heard, if you just tuned in now, you have to go back and listen to part 1 so you can hear about the amazing story of how Grand Sheik's life was literally saved by a voice that told him to get up and leave. And when he did, everybody in the plane, everyone in his platoon and all of the crew on that plane died in a plane crash on the Gene Autry Ranch. And
that was from Headquarters Company, Fort Ord,
1966. And California. You'll find that, actually, you can look it up. You won't see his name, but I call him 99 because 98 people perished and he would have been the 99th. But he needed to be here for such a time as this. He needed to stay around so that you and I could learn about him and begin to get the benefit of his knowledge and his expertise and his heart, his dedication. He manifested. He came in the form of a body this time just to do exactly what he's doing. And I love him for it. I'm going to touch him on the shoulder. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the last time we did a live, I had a brother literally call me and said, I want to talk to somebody in charge at the House of Reawakening Mind, because I saw a lady doing an interview with the Grand Sheik and she touched him. And that wasn't proper to do with an interview. And I was like, excuse me, I'm the one in charge, and I'm the lady that was touching him, and he's my friend, he's my brother, and we were in my office and so forth. But it was, you know, so please don't send me no, you were sitting too close to Grand Sheik. You know what? Get over yourself. That sound like you. Get over yourself. We are brother and sister. We hang out when he's in Delaware. You can find us in the Home Depot, the thrift shops, the Goodwill, and having a good time. He's real people, but he has a real serious mission, and I believe that I do too. And if you agree that we have and are benefiting you in any way, you, your family, your friends, please, 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 ma'am, please, please, brother, please, sister, please support what we're doing. We're not asking because we want, if we, trust me, what I'd like to do is have enough finances, because we're going to have an open house on the, we moved it to the 24th of August. We're doing the open house at the House of Reawakening Minds, and you, everyone and anyone is invited. But really what we're doing is we're trying to invite the community, because we were doing the same thing. We realized that many churches do. They get a building in a neighborhood where the rent or the mortgage is low, and they come from all over and they do what they do, but they never impact or interact with the community that they're sitting in. And we have people that think that House of Reawakening Minds is a Masonic temple because they see the brothers. That's, you know, misinformation and misunderstanding. And they think we're a Masonic temple because they see the brothers with the fezzes. Well, we want them to know what we are and who they are, more importantly, and what, you know, how they can benefit from coming. So what we'd like to do is not to ever have to ask anyone for anything at the door, because we have it, because you know, our thousands and thousands of viewers, if you were just sending one note, I know many of you can do a lot more than that, but if everybody watched the video, you know, in a few hours or more, 5,000 people will see this. What if they send $1? You know, we'd be able to, in a month or two, we'd be able to raise the funds, or even in less than a month, we could raise the funds to fix the building, have a little bit there, so that whenever our speakers come, we can compensate them, which they're well deserving of it, for their time and for their knowledge and so forth, and let the community come in, and learn about who they are and who we are and who they are, and be able to do better, because we've heard enough gunshots and, you know, all the negative police and fire sirens and stuff, and we know it's all because people do not know who they are.
They're in a low state of mind.
That's right. They don't know who they are. So, you know, and yes, I get calls all the time. Is there a House of Reawakening Minds in, you know, in Atlanta? Is there one in Texas? Not now, not yet, but let's fix headquarters up. And maybe we can branch out and help you all who want to create something similar where you are, a House of Reawakening Minds. And we will, you know, if you are an affiliate of House of Reawakening Minds, then what we can do is, you know, arrange so that, you know, at least, you know, once or twice a year, you got the Grand Sheik coming to where, you know, you are, but you would take the skill and the knowledge that you have been gaining, and you begin to teach and reach those in your area. And then it will be reawakening minds, one mind at a time, all over the globe. I mean, yes, this is where it started, but this doesn't need to, you know, have to be necessarily where it ends. You know, we're not.
Truth belongs to all people.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we are not a temple. You know, we are a place of enlightenment and, you know, free thought and, you know, all the things that we say. And I want to give a shout out to what I call her, my daughter, my spiritual daughter, Maisha Brown, for writing that song that you normally hear. Tamara has it on her phone. We normally open up with Maisha, and she wrote it, and she sang it on my phone in 2015. And I carried it around on my phone for the longest time, and I let Tamara hear it, I guess about five months ago or so. And she was like, this song is fine just like it is. I've been holding it for like 4 years. And so we just kind of turn on the tape and let y'all hear her singing. The deeper I go, the more. But I want to shout out to Maisha for writing that. And you know, she kept saying, well, we're gonna do it better and redo it. No, it's what we need. People are singing. I bet some of y'all know the words. The deeper and deeper I go, the more I find out. You should know. It's just a matter of time till you reawaken your mind. And that's what we've been doing since 2011. I want to thank the universe for Sister Zodiacus L. You know, may she rise in power. She is the sister who came and helped me in the beginnings when I was making my transition from being a pastor apostle to just being Dr. G, who I am, and she said I was sent to help you, and she stayed, I want to say about a year or so,
yes.
and then she transitioned in 2012, but not before she connected me with Grand Sheik in 2011. And I also want to give condolences to her family, her mother, Sharina, transitioned in June 6th, I believe it was, in California, Khalifa territory. So, I mean, condolences to the family. But what I'm saying is it was her connection to me that she ended up taking me to, remember the Philly classes that you used to do on and that's when I was like, can you come to Delaware? And I was just, waking up at the time. I mean, I don't think I really woke up, Taj, till about 3 years ago. Even though you've been here a long time, because I had the venue, but I was still housing director, and I was trying to keep it going. But I had, I was all caught up in the corporation, trying to make sure that the two didn't, mix. But ding, 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 the light bulb went on eventually, and I realized that it wasn't about all these people who wanted remedy, because I didn't need remedy. What I needed was I needed birthright and nationality. I was a stateless person, and I didn't realize I was. I didn't know the condition I was in. And so one day it just, the light bulb went on, and I realized what you had been teaching. And like, even now I was telling brother, somebody today on Facebook made a comment. Maybe it was Brother Elijah yesterday. I just always find myself, things that you've said to me starting to come through. And what I'm saying, I'm like, you know what, that's your teaching rubbing off. So, they said this thing called osmosis. Eventually you start to absorb. And
then a lot of it was already in you. It just was held back. That's all.
Yeah. So,
truthfully.
Yeah. So I got to tell Sister Shafe that I'm on online. But yeah, so, this teaching, yes, I get the benefit of being able to be up close and personal with Grand Sheik, but he's a very busy man. And I appreciate the time that he puts in with the House of Reawakening Minds. I think it's safe to say that House of Reawakening Minds is your home base. It's home base, right? That's what I tell him. It's home base. And of course, I know you all would love to have him in your town. I get calls. He does not fly. He was going to talk about the Wigener effect, but you know why he don't fly. He doesn't fly. But we can get him to certain places. He's going as far as Khalifa. He goes by train. But right now, you can get him at least twice a month at the House of Reawakening Mind. So again, your support, your love, your passing on, sharing the links when we come on live and letting people know that we're on, or playing the videos back so that you can really get it. We appreciate that. And like I said, we appreciate and love all of you, and if you can support us. We've told you what the real need is. It is I know you heard it from the horse's mouth that there is a big need to get this building fixed. How do we donate? Okay. I think I put the link up, but you can go to paypal.me/ then it's NAILAHGILLIAM as in Mary. It'll come up as Real House of Reawakening Minds, but you're putting my name in first. Or you can go to cash.me/ REAWAKEN. So that's cash.me/ $reawaken. Either one of those. You can also send a check or money order payable to P as in Paul, T as in Tom, K as in King, M as in Moore, PTKM, and send it to our address at 602 Vandever, VANDEVER Avenue, and that's in Wilmington. That's WILMINGTON, Delaware, DELAWARE, zip 19802. And the reason why we asked you to make it up to PTKM and not House of Reawakening Mind is because that's what we have, the name we have our account in our banking account. So that's just that's the PTKM part. So anyway, any way you can, and as often as you can, even if it's just a note, we actually would prefer we don't care how you send it, but checks and money orders, you know, what happens is when we get the PayPal and the Cash Me, eventually, if it gets to a certain amount, then they're going to send us a 1099 like we have a business, and we don't have a business. So when we get checks and money orders, we don't have to report that through Cash App and PayPal
in the first place.
And in the first place. So, you know, but we appreciate any way you can help us. And we, you know, we talked about doing a GoFundMe, but, you know, you all know what we need. It can really be done here to help it done. And once we get it done, you've seen, we actually, I spent, you know, what come out of my pocket with a lot of materials that for the work that you did at House of Real Awakening Minds. We were living in Home Depot.
They know us by name.
Yeah, they know us like, we haven't seen you all for a while. Buying stuff, and Grand Sheik, so graciously, you've seen the changes in the House of Real Awakening Minds. He just recently put lights up with fans on them because it was so hot, and every time we turn the air conditioner on, which we still have to do sometimes, you can't even hear us hear the recording. But we'll get some new air conditioners. We need 2 new whisper quiet air conditioners, because those air conditioners are at least 16 years old, and they were there when I bought the building. Yeah. So they've been in there at least 16 years plus. So we do need 2 air conditioners, but right now we have some fans that at least will circulate the air a little bit. But right now we have some physical, like I said, some physical structural things that must be addressed before it gets worse. And Grand Sheik is only one person, and even though he knows how to do all that, you know, I just don't want him to have to try to do that all by himself. So we talked about it. He said plumbers, electricians, and masons, brick masons. You know, you can just give your talent and your time.
Fundamental contracting.
Contracting. Please contact us if you want to help us that way. And like I said, but we still have, we might even have to have a backhoe come in that back, remember, to dig down it, which is a biggie. So yeah, we got some stuff we got to do, you know, and it's only, you know, some things we're going to have to do.
Gotta do what we gotta do.
The way we gotta do it. So, but anyway, this is what this last apparently what does this say? Pine cone is, I'm just reading this stuff. But we appreciate you all for sticking with us. Yeah, sticking with us all this time. Thank you, Pamela Jones. She said we're gonna get you straight. We appreciate that. But I'm really serious. I get so many calls regarding other you know, House of Reawakening Minds. Is there one here? And no, if it is somebody created it, they're not connected. But what we would like to do, because we've talked about this, Grand Sheik, is having affiliate locations. It's just that you're just not gonna get him, depending on where you are, you're not gonna be able to get Grand Sheik maybe every month, but you know, we will make sure that we're getting there at least, you know, once a year, because you know, who knows? I mean, there might be places all over the country that would like to have, you know, similar teaching setups. And the only thing I can do is and you know, we just have to share with you how we did what we did. Now, of course, I had a venue, you know what I mean? I had the church building and was able to, you know, a lot of people don't have that luxury, but we can certainly tell you, you know, share our mission and, you know, concepts and some of the things that we do and how you might be able to attract people in your area. Although, because initially that's what we basically had was local people, but it kind of panned out because, like I said, those people just looking for remedy. And then, you know, so what we've seen since 2011 is a growth and an expansion.
A large group of
people have come here literally from all over this country, at least. Is it good to call it country? What is this? The land. This land, all over the land. We got all over Maghreb, from, you know, Khalifa to Florida, the land of flowers, to Texas and Tennessee and up in New York and Canada. They've been from, and every, you know, and you all watch us globally. We know that. We know that you're in China and the so-called Caribbean, and Nepal, all over. We know UK. We know we've gotten calls from Spain and so forth. So we know you're watching us. So any way you can support, keep this going, and make sure that we can keep you know, I want to make sure that Grand Sheik and brother Abdullah and brother Aaron, and we want to restore, you know, the Father Hannibal's classes. Like you said, we've had to do to make some. We need your support. Then nobody wants to stand up and teach somebody and there's nobody there. You know what I mean? So we literally have had some classes where no one's there. You know, now you might be out here, but you know, it's kind of, you know, it gets kind of difficult, you
at
know,
the house, because all the expenses still roll.
Right. We still turning on the stuff and everything. And it's this Tamara and I and the instructor, you know what I mean? And maybe one or two people, if that, and then the two people that come in, they're from the neighborhood and you just told them, come on in, you know, just so it'd be somebody there. So, you know, we don't want to do that. We think that we have a valuable enough information, and we've shown you our, I want to say our integrity.
Yeah, and the hand, we've opened the deck. Put the cards on the table.
Yeah. So we've done that, and you know who we are. I don't live off of what comes to the House of Reawakening Minds by any stretch of the imagination. I'm retired, and as long as that retirement check comes through.
We're going to get into the future about what checks are and are not too. They need to really know all of that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, anyway, I'm looking. It is now, what time is it? I don't even know what time it is.
It's 11:45.
Oh, it's a new day, y'all. We've been talking for hours and hours trying to get this thing through. But I hope these videos have remained. I'm sweating. I am sweating. And y'all, yeah, look, since I'm going to put a PSA, Taj, I have a site called It's a Rap Girl. And I started showing the sisters how to take all kinds of scarves and wrap their hair. And you see this, I mean, this was different when I picked you up, right? I just took it off and put it back on again before we got started. But if you want to know about different styles and how to wrap different scarves, I'm going to do a wrap clinic so that we can come and bring all our scarves. Sisters can come and bring their scarves. Matter of fact, I don't know what I did with that book, but you know, oh gosh, you know, the book about the wrapping the hair, why it's important. But we're going to talk about how it's the importance of harnessing your energy. I want to call it. You're protecting your energy, and at the same time, there's so much respect I find. I get,
and the metaphysical meanings of the different wraps too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things. So we're gonna probably put together a wrap clinic at the House of Reawakening Minds, and I'm gonna invite sisters to come bring their scarves, and whatever you got, you get scarves, pashimas, the shawls, even the ones that are circular and round. We can wrap our head. Hijabs, all those things. Bring your stuff, and we're gonna have fun learning how to wrap. And you don't have to wear. My motto is there are no bad hair days.
That's right.
With a wrap, your hair you can protect your hair and just wrap it up and be beautiful and walk out and be
regal.
That's
your antenna.
Right.
Keep your
antenna protected. When I had locks before, my locks were about back to my back, and I didn't realize about the energy and why I was feeling crazy because I was pastoring back then, and I wore those locks, and I just said one day, cut them out, take them off, and I took them. I got rid of my locks. I probably would have had them down.
That was your antenna.
Yeah, but it was just that I didn't protect myself. And of course, when you're pastoring, you're dealing with a lot of people and a lot of issues and stuff like that. And so I didn't know then what I know now. So protecting, relocking and protecting at the same time.
You got that right.
And people, the response to it is so positive. So I created a page called facebook.com/a rap girl, AWAR, how's that? RAPGIRL, a rap girl. I just spelled it right. But I'm putting tips there. Also, I have a page called 8 Weeks to a Healthy You, and that is facebook.com/B, the letter B, more, MOOR, fit. B as in boy, MOOR, FIT, Be More Fit. Check that page out. I'm putting recipes on there, health tips, plant-based living tips. Oh gosh, I'm putting all kinds of stuff on there that you can use to you know, increase or improve on your health. I am on a plant-based journey, lifestyle journey. I love it. I'm looking at myself on the camera, and of course the camera adds like 20 pounds, you know that, right? But I'm pretty sure that my previous videos I had 20 more pounds looking than I got now, because I'm actually slendering down just by changing the way I eat and cutting out the meat. And I mean, if you still as my friend Shafe says, you want to bite a critter, you know, that's on you. But I've got to the place where I have compassion for animals, and even so more compassion for myself, because they had no business in my stomach. That's probably why they mess us up. Right. So I got those two pages, A Rap Girl and Be More Fit. Hope you check them out. And as well as please continue to support us here. I want to thank you, one and all, for indulging us and being a part of tonight's broadcast. And I'm thankful that Grand Sheik stopped what he was doing when he forgot about the class and came down from Philly just so we could do this, right? So thank you again from House of Reawakening Minds, AKN, by way of office hours with Dr. G, because we're not at the House of Reawakening Minds, but we're actually in the street. We're down the street in my home office, and we've had a ball. I had a ball. I had a ball. Thank you.
See, the glass is empty.
Yeah, glasses. We have. Well, I got a little bit, yeah, but we got some more downstairs. Anyway, so thank y'all for tuning in, and until next time, if you give us some thumbs up, tell us how much you enjoyed this kind of presentation. We'll do it again. You know?
Field some questions.
Right, because we don't have to do it on a Friday. We could, but we would do it maybe on a weekend when Grand Sheik is here. Like, for instance, he might do a class Friday night, and then maybe he'll stay over till Saturday. And then we'll do something like this or something for you. So I want to thank you again for being here with us. We love you. We love you. We love you. Love you. Love you. Hope you enjoyed my little etymology clips that I put on my page, and we can work on not using those words that are colorable.
Yes.
And be backed up. So thank you again, and good night. What was that? I want to make sure it says where. What does that say right there? Where to start in all of this.
We'll go into that too. Make notes on something.
How can we order book by the Grand Sheik?
We're going to that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure what book that he's talking about, but Manly P. Hall, appreciate you. Yep. He's always giving some good facts. All right, we'll address that thing, where to start in all of this. Antonio Jackson, if you don't have our flash drive, that would be the best. We got a lot of information on there.
Yes.
You got over 50 documents on there that will give you a place to start, and you could be stuck there. I mean, I stood for like the next 5 years or more studying stuff. So we have a flash drive. You'll see the information on the page about ordering a flash drive. Please order, and we'll get it out to you. Again, thank you, and
peace.
Peace, and good night.
Go wash my face.
Mm-hmm.